coming out of Utah County, but you still have several pockets of very slow traffic from Lehigh into downtown. The West Side Belt still pretty slow through the new road construction zone between the 201 freeway and California Avenue, but those delays back up sometimes almost to 3500 South. And then you're still going to have this closure of 1100 South in Salt Lake City. Both eastbound and westbound closed at 5600 West due to a rolled semi. Andy.
South 15 has a couple of slow spots. We have a little bit of delay that's crept in now in between Kaysville and Farmington, right where that old Shepherd Lane Bridge was. And then we've got some slowing at the 215 North interchange coming past down towards Warm Springs Road. I-80 slow prior to Kimball Junction because of some paving work going on between Jeremy Ranch and the SR 224 turnoff.
Today, we'll get up to 99 degrees. We'll stay in the upper 90s for the next few days, but drop to the lower 90s this weekend. Right now, it's 79 degrees downtown. Inside Sources with Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson coming up next on KSL News Radio.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
9 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour. We're finally learning more about the 3 bodies found in Millard County. KSL News Radio's Alexandria Bonilla reports.
The county sheriff's office says they believe it was a murder-suicide, where 28-year-old Jay Stevens shot and killed his grandmother, Colleen Halsey, before turning the gun on himself. A 23-month-old was also found dead at the scene, but the cause of death has not been released. The sheriff's office is asking for patience and understanding as they continue to investigate the deaths. Alexandria Bonilla, KSL News Radio.
We're learning more about the arson case in Cedar City. Police say a man suspected of lighting the home on fire is the owner. Police say there was evidence of arson at the scene. The owner, Tyson Hopkins, reportedly told police he'd not been home for a few days and was at a gas station when he heard about the fire. A neighbor told investigators Hopkins was at the home multiple times. He eventually admitted to lighting the fire and is now facing charges. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The FBI is doing even more to find the man accused of killing Clinton and Kristen Brink. ABC's Jim Ryan says the couple's young daughters weren't hurt during the ordeal.
The Brinks family was hiking on a remote trail in northwest Arkansas when the killer attacked.
Someone wanted to get away with a heinous crime, they would probably go to a place like this.
Dr. Angelo Brown teaches criminology at Arkansas State University and says the park's spotty cell reception was a factor.
So by the time the news got out, he's probably hundreds of miles away.
Detectives are distributing a sketch of the suspect in Arkansas and neighboring Oklahoma. Jim Ryan, ABC News.
Your money at this moment, the Dow is down 129 points so far at 44,708. Coming up, we're going to get near 100 today. Will we break it? KSL weather is next. KSL News Time 9:01.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
You still have 40 million plus vehicles globally that are driving around with a potential ticking time bomb, a grenade in either their steering wheel or their dashboard. When we look to what injuries may have transpired from a defective airbag, we generally see loss of vision in an eye, or we see facial lacerations. We also see hearing loss. Unfortunately, we started seeing death after death after death. When that passenger airbag exploded, it basically degloved his entire face. He lost his nose, he lost his right eye. The type of catastrophic injuries that one is more accustomed to seeing in a Hollywood movie, and not something from a device in an automobile that's supposed to protect you. Morgan & Morgan has a national reach in terms of handling and prosecuting cases. Notwithstanding the team of lawyers that we have collected that focus only on product liability day in and day out.
Morgan & Morgan. Visit us at badairbags.com for an office near you. Prior results do not guarantee a similar outcome.
You probably saved my life.
Every single day, Soda Weight Loss is helping people let go of the weight and keep it off.
I mean, I was 30 pounds overweight, and I went in, and the doctor said, you need to change your diet.
Get help and get started with Soda Weight Loss.
Got off my blood pressure medicine and my cholesterol medicine, and that is amazing to me.
I went from a 16, 18 down to a size 4 now. So that is amazing amazing. It makes you feel so good.
Splash into summer savings right now with soda's lowest prices of the year.
No injections, no pills, no hunger.
I would recommend soda because it's sustainable. This is lifetime change.
I let go of 50 pounds. It felt unreal.
We're the #1 weight loss company in America for client satisfaction and results. And with our incredible summer savings, what are you waiting for?
Get help. Get results at sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com.
Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
The Social Security Administration just announced they are now projected to run out of money 1 year earlier than expected. Benefits could be cut by as much as 23%, and the average person could lose more than $100,000 in lifetime income. This news could significantly change when you file for Social Security. Discover how you could get every penny out of your benefits with a free Social Security analysis from Boss Retirement Solutions. If you've saved more than $300,000 and have not filed for Social Security, schedule your free analysis now by calling 801-896-9622. This free, customized analysis could help you get every penny out of Social Security. Call 801-896-9622. That number again, 801-896-9622.
Boss Retirement Solutions is not affiliated with the Social Security Administration.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Heather Kelly.
SR 36 in Twila County is the problem child right now. Northbound, you still have the delays between Canyon Road and eastbound I-80. But if you're southbound SR 36 in Twila City itself, we have debris that has shut down a couple of left lanes right around 1200 North. Crews are trying to sweep it up right now, but only the right lane is open through that area. If you're northbound I-15, you still have off and on delays between Lehigh and downtown, and the lane restrictions are now in place southbound I-15 in Farmington, which is slowing everybody down as you come out of Kaysville. Where mountaintops meet motivation, Snow Pine Lodge in Alta offers a stunning, distraction-free setting for your next leadership retreat or client hospitality. Mention KSL and get 20% off Snow Pine catered food. Visit snowpine.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather today will be partly cloudy with highs in the 90s. There's a chance for some rain this morning, but it should clear up by this afternoon. Tomorrow should be sunny all day. Right now it's mostly cloudy. Don't even see the sun outside the window here at Broadcast House. 79 degrees in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
And just into the newsroom this morning as we begin the show, the Utah State Auditor's Office has found a misuse of millions of dollars in public funds in Utah due to a lack of oversight.
It was just barely came in, but I had a chance to look through, and it is really pretty surprising, actually. And I want to know how it happened. So we actually have the state auditor coming in to join us in the next hour.
Right. We are going to have Utah State Auditor Tina Cannon joining us in studio at 10:05 to break this down. But this is a really interesting audit and finding of some what appears to be some fairly significant misuse of public funds. So we'll break that down in an hour. In the meantime, we need to talk about an article that I saw that talks about the degree of confidence that people have in our various institutions, from colleges and universities, and including our political institutions, the United States Supreme Court, the state Supreme Court, Congress, Utah legislature, governor. Yep. It breaks it down pretty thoroughly.
Well, luckily we have Brigham Tomko to break it down for us. So this is a Deseret News Hinckley Institute of Politics poll, and Brigham is the writer with the Deseret News who published the article. Welcome into the studio, Brigham. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
What's really surprising about, well, no, it's not surprising, is that the confidence level is not great with any group, but it certainly is different if you break it down by political affiliation. For example, Democrats, Independents, and Republicans have different views on these various institutions, I guess as you might expect, Brigham, in this day and age.
That's right. I think it's pretty intuitive to people nowadays to understand that people will view
a democratic process or outcome through a political lens, unfortunately. But it's pretty dramatic when you break it down. Although a quarter of Utah voters said they had no trust at all in things like the Utah legislature, that number jumps up significantly when you look only at the Democratic voters. So, for example, almost half of Utah Democratic voters said they had no confidence at all in the Utah legislature. And 57%, so almost 60%, 6 out of 10 of Utah Democratic voters said the same of the U.S. Congress. And Utah Republicans were 35 percentage points less likely to say they had no confidence in those institutions.
Yeah, those numbers I think are pretty striking. And I also saw you had an interesting quote from Jason Perry. Would you tell us about that, what he said about this? It's more than just a partisan divide, he thinks.
That's right. So sometimes it's too easy to chalk up political dissatisfaction to my party's not in power, I don't like what they're doing. But Jason Perry, who's the director of the University of Utah's Hinckley Institute of Politics, said that this is not just about partisan disagreement, but a much deeper concern about representation, is what he said. And one of the scholars at Sutherland Institute, a think tank based in Salt Lake City, said that institutional trust is based on whether people believe that the institution is doing what the Constitution intended for it to do, that people in D.C. or in Salt Lake City are doing their jobs to represent me. And so it appears that in this case, Democratic voters feel like the institutions are not doing what they were meant to do.
It's interesting that colleges and universities were put in this poll because the other groups are all very political, but it talks about institutions and actually, Brigham, colleges and universities do the least poorly. They do the best. They don't have as much lack of confidence in as most of the other institutions go. But I guess I was a little surprised that they were included in the poll in the first place.
Yeah, I think there's this narrative that universities are part of this broader culture war battle, or I guess the struggle over power between conservatives and liberals within the United States. And we actually saw that valence or that kind of significance around universities when it came to nationwide universities, where Republicans actually outpaced Democrats in terms of their distrust towards that institution. Almost a quarter of Utah Republicans said they had no confidence at all in universities nationwide. But like you said, when it comes to the university system in Utah, Republicans and Democrats are on exactly the same page, where a third of Utah voters said they had a great deal of confidence in that institution, and only 12% of Utah voters said they had no confidence in the Utah system of higher education.
Yeah, one of the things I think from polling that I've seen over the years that I've been following is that we tend to say we don't like what those guys are doing, so usually pointing towards D.C., right? But our guy's doing okay, right? So we don't like those universities, but our universities are okay, right? We don't like Congress, but our congressmen and women are okay. So one of the things that struck me really, and I don't know if you have seen this before in polling, but how many people just have no confidence at all in several of the major institutions, like somewhere around a fourth or a fifth of people. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, that's all right. It's kind of a broader trend we've seen over the last several decades in the United States that has accelerated in recent years, where you see between 2 in 10 to, in some cases, 4 in 10 Americans having no trust in some of our key institutions, whether that's the Supreme Court or the legislative branch of government. And one lesson that maybe we draw from the Utah higher education example is that the institutions that are closer to us, that we have come into contact with, or maybe the ideas that we've engaged with ourselves, they seem less foreign to us, and we're more likely to see the value in them and maybe have some degree of confidence in them. And so in many cases, maybe the only times that Utah voters are coming into contact with Congress is through social media, where the only snippet you're getting in your day is one that does not inspire trust at all. So
I thought it was a little bit encouraging, just as an attorney, to see that the courts, both nationally and locally here in Utah, fared better than the other political institutions. I mean, the United States Supreme Court and the Utah Supreme Court did better than I think virtually everyone. So I was a little surprised at that in one sense, Brigham, because we think a lot these days about the United States Supreme Court, at least, as being very politicized. We get these 6-3 opinions on virtually everything, but Utahns seem still to feel that the courts are doing the right thing most of the time, and the difference between the United States and the Utah Supreme Court wasn't really significant, although I bet it was within parties.
Yeah, and I wonder if that has something to do with the institutional question, where it appears like the courts are following a process. Even if you don't agree with the outcome, maybe after a certain outcome comes out, you're dissatisfied with the court. But in general, you feel like the people in the black robes aren't doing it for the clicks. You know, they're there following some sort of process. They have some sort of principles they're basing their decisions on, where too often when you look at legislative activities, there's grandstanding or fundraising that are just more blatant, and maybe that's impacting how Utah voters are seeing these institutions.
I wonder if you could speak really briefly to how Governor Cox is doing.
So we are seeing what looks like a steadying out of support for Utah's governor after a sea change, I think, in his public reputation or perception during the last election cycle. I've been on this show before to talk about how Democratic support for Governor Cox within the last year plummeted, and since then he's kind of remained stable, just under 60% approval rating among Utah voters. And in this last poll, we saw him again at about 57% approval rating, and he got a small boost in support among Republicans while Democrats continue their downward trend.
Interesting poll. Well, thank you for joining us this morning, Brigham. And when we come back after the break, Utah's polling reflects a national trend. We'll talk about the lack of trust and how we can rebuild trust when we come back.
Listen to KSL for the new and traditional content you've always loved. There's the new Inside Sources, expanded from 9 to noon, and new expanded news coverage with Maria Chaleos on midday, noon to 3. And of course, the news and weather from voices you love, mornings and afternoons. Here are new traditions and the familiar ones on KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM and 1160 AM.
Hey, this is Dan, the laptop man from PC Laptops. Let me tell you an amazing story. Last week, a customer came in. They were a creative director for an agency, and they were frustrated that their old, slow computer wasn't processing their files quick enough. He had a big project due and could not afford any delays. Well, we hooked him up with one of our new, powerful 2025 desktops for only $999, and he was able to complete his project with ease. Take one home today. The new 2025 S1 desktop or SM3 laptop for only $999. You heard that right, $999. You get a blazing fast processor, 16 gigs of RAM, and over a terabyte of blazing storage for $999. What else you get? Lifetime service warranty, and we have 12 months special financing on approved credit. Hurry in right now because supplies are limited, because at PC Laptops, we love you. Just check us out at PCLaptops.com. $999, PCLaptops.com.
Regardless of how old your air conditioner is, there are a few things you can do to help it last as many summers as possible. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and like so many things in our life, it's easy to take our air conditioner for granted. If you keep a clean filter, rinse the outdoor unit off every once in a while, and have it serviced once a summer, you can reduce your risk of unexpected breakdowns. But eventually it will break down. And if someone tells you that your only option is to replace it, don't be afraid to get a second opinion. You could save thousands of dollars repairing it instead of replacing it. Any Hour rarely comes across an air conditioner that just can't be repaired. That doesn't mean you won't choose to replace it anyway, but being told you don't have options, that's not cool. So if you want honest answers and straightforward options, give Any Hour Services a call. And remember, every week this summer, Any Hour Services is giving away an air conditioner to one lucky customer as part of our Coolest Summer Sweepstakes. No purchase is necessary. You can see official rules or schedule your service at anyhour.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
1877 Cards for Kids. KARS Cards for Kids. 1877 Cards for Kids. Donate your card today.
1877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Donate your car today at carsforkids.org. That's cars with a K. Your car, running or not, can be picked up as soon as the next day. You'll get a maximum tax deduction and a vacation voucher.
1877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Now accepting donations of land, homes, buildings, or any kind of real estate.
Lowe's knows big savings make a big difference, especially when you're shopping for appliances. Hurry in to get up to 30% off select major appliances. Plus, My Lowe's Rewards members get free delivery, free haul away, free installation and parts on purchases of $2,500 or more. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 7/30. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. Price, delivery time, and vehicle availability may vary based on order size and location. Exclusions apply. See Lowes.com/delivery for more details.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. We're dedicated to serving people 50 and up like me. Our needs are different. Big Wireless wants us in an unlimited plan, but if you're not using all that data, you're probably getting used. At Consumer Cellular, we're focused on affordable, reliable plans, including data that suits your needs, not ours. Our plans start at just $20, and you'll get the best customer service in the business.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com/facts. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional facts.
Hi, Grandma. Can Nina come over for dinner?
Sure. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
If anyone ever does, I want you to say, no, I have too much respect for my family and I don't want to get in trouble.
I promise, Grandma.
They really do hear you. For tips on what to say, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
Inside Sources.
When we opened the show this morning, we were talking about Utahns' confidence in our various institutions, from the colleges and universities to our political institutions. And Holly, one thing that I didn't get to ask Brigham about was and before we get to the next segment, which is how Americans feel about our institutions, was that the institutions that we had the most confidence in were the ones we don't vote for.
Right.
That is, the Utah and the United States Supreme Court both did better than the governor, the legislature, and Congress.
And also colleges and universities did better.
Right. So I don't know if that's like, hey, if you don't like it, do something about it. But you would think that people having lost confidence in these various institutions would do something. I mean, I know I'm preaching to the choir here.
Again, it's one of those things where it's we don't like Congress, but our Congress people are okay, right? We don't necessarily like what the Supreme Court is doing, but, you know, just some of the things where you think we could make a difference. It's funny because we'll circle the wagons around our own people. So incumbents get reelected to Congress. It's over 90%. I think it's something like 93%. If they run for reelection, they're going to get reelected. I mean, almost always. So even though the approval rating for Congress is just down in the basement, we still will reelect the incumbents at a very overwhelming rate.
Right. And we're also being given some information from a latest Gallup poll that talks about Americans' confidence in system in our institutions, rather, and only 28% of Americans have strong confidence in major U.S. institutions, which are nearly historic lows.
Yeah.
I mean, we're at a low point in terms of our public confidence in our various institutions.
Yeah, it's a decades-long trend, and a little earlier when I was talking with Andy and Amanda, we were talking about, like, why is this and what can we do to rebuild the trust? But some of the why really has to do, according to social scientists, it really has to do with the lack of connection between Americans, right? So Robert Putnam wrote a book called Bowling Alone, and it's the idea that we used to have bowling leagues and people would hang out together and we would, create communities together. And it used to happen in D.C. as well when you had senators and congresspeople who lived there in D.C. They went to the same churches, their kids went to the same schools. And then with the advent of, basically quick and easy air travel, now everybody lives back in their home state and they commute for work into D.C. And there's a lot more separation and a lot less getting along, at least on the surface, right, between people of different political parties.
Yeah, and I think in that light, Holly, what America needs right now is a huge bipartisan push towards some I don't know what it's going to take, but and hopefully it's not in response to some national disaster or something, but we just don't get together on issues, even if it is something like a disaster. You talk about fires in California, floods in Texas.
Right.
Those were almost looked at along party lines as well.
For sure they were.
People who were Republicans felt like, well, the California Democrats weren't prepared, and the opposite
fault,
was
and
true.
We're not going to send them money.
Right.
Yep.
Whereas you would expect those kind of disasters would unite us and like, hey, let's do something about this.
Yeah.
It hasn't done that.
Look, one of the articles, and this is one we're looking at the Deseret News about the just kind of the national trend, and basically what the author is saying is that while the details differ, the distrust is the same. So in one America, the media lies, the elections are rigged, the schools indoctrinate, the government's weaponized. But in the other America, the courts are compromised, the police are racist, the churches are corrupt, and the rich have rigged the system. Right? I mean, so it doesn't...
Republicans, Democrats.
Right,
I mean,
exactly,
that's how you
right,
broke it
exactly.
down.
So it's not just... certainly there's polarization, and that's part of it, right? But we also have this disconnection, and it's a lot easier. In fact, I know the First Lady says this all the time, the First Lady of Utah, Abby Cox. It's harder to hate people up close. Right? When you get to know somebody, it's really hard to hate them, right? Because especially if you go in with an open mind and say, hey, I help me understand, right? Where are you coming from? Help me learn more. And people are able to cross those lines, but that's an individual thing, one-on-one, and we have an entire country that is now separated.
Yeah, and let's look at that exact statement that you just talked about as it relates to Congress in the United States. So you have 435 congressional representatives all in a room. And they're pretty much, there's a few more Republicans, Democrats, but they're together every day, and they are with each other. They are talking to each other. You would think there would be a little more camaraderie, but it seems anymore that what's happening is that if you support another party's cause, it makes it look like that party's doing something right, and 2 years or now or 4 years from now when they come to elections, you don't want them to get credit for something. So I mean, that seems to be a problem that we have with our national congression in the state of Utah. Of course, it's not the same problem, but nationally, it does seem to be that.
Yeah,
case.
there for sure some of that, and voters will say at times, if you support the other party, then I'll make sure you never get elected again. We do have a Senator, John Curtis. He really works on bipartisan legislation every time he can. So. He has some recent legislation on wildfires, for example, and so he has been able to find people who are Democratic senators from states in the West who are concerned about wildfires, and they work together, right? But it's not just political institutions either, right? So lack of trust in churches, lack of trust in the media, lack of trust in universities, right? And institutions... We use that. In fact, there's Yuval Harari, and I've read some of his books. He says institutions aren't sexy, but they're the bedrock of human society, and we actually need institutions. They're kind of the glue that holds society together. And so when you have a collapse of trust, then where do you turn, right? Every decision starts to become riskier or more stressful, or people are angry and they're disillusioned, and then they start to reduce their civic participation.
And one of the institutions that we have always expected to be very, or at least fairly well received by the populace, are the courts, right, especially the United States Supreme Court. And one of the things about this study that we're looking at is that confidence in the Supreme Court has dropped, particularly among Democrats. Just 28% has trust in the Supreme Court, down from 50% just 5 years ago.
Right.
So, I mean, Democrats have given up on the Supreme Court for the time being. And that's sad, because you always think of the Supreme Court as being, hey, they're the ones that are going to break the tie. They're the ones that are going to keep us on the level. At least the lawyer in me hopes that's the case. But lately it seems like we're even questioning what's happening there. And we're looking at decisions by judges in the light of who appointed them to their position.
Yeah, there's some of that. And I will say this is not the first time that trust in the Supreme Court hasn't been ideal. The Supreme Court doesn't always get it right. I mean, you remember that they've had decisions that were quite racist, and we have certainly that slavery is okay, and then we had the separate but equal, some of those things that have been repealed, right? We thought it was okay that women couldn't vote for 100 years. Plus, actually, after the founding of the United States. So that's some of it, right? And so over time, sometimes there's some corrective action that happens at the court level. It's the highest court level. But we also have social media, right, that has really fomented this distrust, right?
Oh, yeah, no question.
And it's what's so interesting about social media is that if you were on social media, which you're not, but if you were, your feed would look very different than my feed. Because it curates. It uses artificial intelligence to curate and to feed us different things, right? So I get ads for women's clothing that I'm pretty sure you would not be getting on your on your social media, right? But we also know from a bunch of academic research actually that places like Facebook and Instagram, they will highlight and promote things that make us angry. We click more on things that make us mad, right? And so then we end up with these streams where we think almost everybody there agrees with us, because we can get in our little echo chamber and say, yeah, those guys, they're so bad, right? But that doesn't help, right? It makes it worse. And so then the question is, how do you restore trust?
Right. Yeah. Well, there are some good things that came out of this poll, and that is that trust in higher education actually went up to 44%. We found that people generally support, like you said, their local politicians more than nationally. People feel their state legislators are doing a better job than nationally. A couple of other institutions have done quite well. Small businesses, 70% trust. The military has a 62% trust. And I'm surprised by this one in this day and age. Science. We have a 61% trust in science.
I'd say that's been dropping. But.
Yeah, but that's probably dropped a bit, but it's still better than it could be. This is another interesting story we're going to talk about when we come back. A man targeting the NFL headquarters in Manhattan killed 4 people and then himself, leaving behind a note blaming football-related head injuries to his own brain disease. More with News Nation when we come back.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top local story this hour. Ballots are arriving at Utah homes for next month's primary elections, and voters have less time to get them mailed back in. Previously, ballots could come in as long as they were postmarked the day before elections, but now they have to be in clerks' hands by 8 p.m. on election night. Salt Lake County Clerk Lanny Chapman says this moves up the timeline for mailing them back.
Turn it in no later than the Friday before Election Day.
Voters can still drop off ballots at official drop boxes or vote in person on Election Day. Almost 200 people in a small rural town in Washington County now have access to clean running water after a new pipeline was installed. Apple Valley is by the Utah-Arizona border and has been living without the clean water for almost 10 years. The state, mayor's office, local water district, and contractors all played a role in finishing the pipeline. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. More supermarkets now using digital ads, meaning the price you pay for a particular grocery item can change several times per day. ABC's Rhiannon Alley has more.
In a recent study, researchers found virtually no surge pricing after electronic labels were installed, finding the labels actually increase the likelihood of consumers getting discounts. But skepticism remains. Maine and Rhode Island have introduced bills to limit the use of digital labels. And in Arizona, a state lawmaker introduced a bill to ban digital tags entirely.
Companies say the tags help cut back on time-consuming labor. Your money at this moment, the Dow down 200 points this morning to 44,637. Coming up, it's overcast. Are we going to see any rain today? KSL weather's next. KSL News Time, 9:31.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Comcast Business High Five Hotline. What's the state of your excitement?
I signed my business up for the 5-year price lock guarantee, and I can't stop high-fiving people. High five!
Okay, deep breath. You're in a good place. You signed your business up for 5 years of gig speed internet and advanced security, all on our ultra-reliable network.
Gig speeds and advanced security? I'm so stoked!
Yep, and you get it at a great rate that's locked in for 5 years.
Woo!
The high five is just your body's way of saying, I'm winning.
So this is natural.
High-fiving everyone you see in a state of business savings enthusiasm? Totally natural.
Sweet! Thank you! Thank you! High five, everybody! High five!
The Comcast Business 5-year price lock guarantee is back, but only for a limited time, so sign your business up today.
High five!
Comcast Business, powering possibilities.
Ends 9/21/25 for new customers with qualifying bundle. Current customers may be eligible depending on services and area. Guaranteed rate applies to monthly service charge, excluding taxes and fees. Other restrictions apply.
This is Jeff Stout with Fink and McGregor Mortgages Made Simple. I know a lot of people are holding on to their low-rate mortgages. After all, who wants to give that up? While sometimes it makes sense or is necessary because of life circumstances, a lot of folks have been holding off waiting for lower rates. While we never know how long that will be, there is a stopgap solution, a home equity line of credit, also known as a HELOC. There are also fixed-rate second mortgage options available. A HELOC has a variable rate and is a line of credit that can be tapped, paid down, and tapped again as circumstances arise. A pure second is usually a fixed rate for a fixed term. We have details and we have solutions. Call us at Fink & McGregor or apply online at 4minutemortgage.com. Fink & McGregor, Mortgages Made Simple, 801-264-9494. That's 264-9494. Or on the web at finkmcgregor.com. NMLS 289115.
You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Coonahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have Leaf Filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/deal to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
That's leaffilter.com/deal for your free gutter inspection today. See representative for warranty details. Promotion is 20% off plus a 10% senior or military discount. One discount per household.
Traffic and weather together on KSL, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. What are you seeing, Heather Kelly?
Well, we're seeing just a few brake lights right now northbound I-15 as you go between 146 South and Bluffdale and Bangerter Highway in Draper. And then southbound I-15, you also have just a smidgen of slowing through Farmington where we have the lane restrictions where the old Shepherd Lane Bridge used to be. Other than that, you've got a pretty good drive. The only accident on the board is this rolled semi on 1100 South in Salt Lake City. It's right at the intersection of 5600 West. All eastbound and westbound directions of travel remain shut down on 11th South due to that rolled semi, so you have to find an alternate route. Advanced Window Products, factory direct affordable windows. Call today, they're on their way. Financing available, save now, pay later. AdvancedWindows.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather today, partly cloudy. Highs in the 90s, could get as high as 99 degrees. There is a chance for some rain this morning, but it should clear up by this afternoon. Tomorrow, sunny all day. Right now, it is cloudy and 77 degrees. It's down a couple degrees in the last half hour. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's new traffic and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Another shooting yesterday, this one at a Midtown Manhattan building. 5 people were shot, 4 of them killed, including a New York Police Department officer. The suspect also took his own life. And this one, Holly, has a weird twist to it because it happened outside a building that houses the National Football League, or at least has some of their offices. And it seems to be somewhat related to football injury or something like that.
Yeah, and we have been learning more, and we actually have on the line with us News Nation national correspondent Marcus Espinoza, who is live in Manhattan outside of where this shooting took place yesterday. Welcome, Marcus.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Good. Hey, can you walk us through what happened and what we know so far?
Yeah, you'd mentioned the NFL and the potential motivation. I'll get to that in a second. But if you don't mind, I think going through the timeline here is important. I arrived at the scene shortly after this happened yesterday. I've been covering it since last night over till this morning. But it's just a remarkable chain of events that took place that led to that mayhem yesterday. Basically, the shooter traveled from Nevada. He traveled across the country in his own registered black BMW through Colorado on July 26th, got to New Jersey on July 27th, and then reached Manhattan here yesterday, July 28th. Very intentional, very direct path. Arriving here on Monday, he did not just show up randomly and, on a weekend and decide to do this. It appears this was very intentional. Arrived on a Monday, the building full of workers here as folks were inside that building. Surveillance video showed the suspect there, the now deceased suspect, exiting his BMW at 6:28 p.m. And I think this is a photo a lot of people have seen of him holding an M4 rifle entering 345 Park Avenue at that building there. And that picture alone is just really, it's horrifying to look at because it's a snapshot of what was about to happen. And so he entered the building, immediately shot that police officer, there, and then 3 other people in the lobby, took the elevator to the 33rd floor where he shot another person before taking his own life. And so that's kind of the timeline of events where he made his way from Nevada here to Manhattan, committed that crime. And then on the NFL note, there appears to be a motivation aimed at the National Football League. This is where they run stuff. Park Avenue here, the NFL. This is their headquarters. This is where they conduct their business here. And there was a 3-page note found on his persons there, according to authorities, according to the mayor there. And in that note, he blamed the NFL for giving him CTE. He did not play for the NFL or even college. He only played football in high school, from what we've been able to gather. And he blamed them for his CTE that he diagnosed himself with, which is a condition that can't be diagnosed until only in post-mortem situations. So that is the motivation seemingly behind this. And the real even additional tragedy is that, he was trying to get to the NFL offices, took the wrong elevator bank, and then ended up on the 33rd floor and still decided to shoot somebody up there before killing himself. So just the timeline, the motivation, it's heartbreaking, guys.
Yeah, and Marcus, I'm looking at this photograph that you described. He's sort of brazenly just walking across the pavement on his way into the building holding an assault rifle as though it's his briefcase. And I'm wondering, especially in that part of the country, openly carrying a weapon like that, you would think it would draw a lot more attention.
It's interesting that you bring that up because I mentioned this on air yesterday as we were covering this, where that image of the best way I could describe it for what I think, if anybody saw that, I said on air, I said, they surely must not have thought that's what they saw, because it's so brazen, it's so out of place here, where I would imagine if anybody did see him walk out of his car with that M4 rifle, that what went through their head was, there's no way I just saw a guy walk into that building with a rifle. You know what I mean? Where it's like they almost can't process it, that level of shock of seeing that person walk in, making zero attempt to conceal what he's about to do inside that building. No gun bag, no book bag, nothing, no long trench coat to hide the gun in, right? It was just there. Like you said, carrying it like a briefcase. So I think if anybody did see it, it must have been such a shocking sight where the brain must have froze in their minds to say, there's no way I just saw that happen. And then he entered that building, immediately confronted that police officer, New York City police officer, Officer Israel, who it just gets more and more tragic. Loving family. His wife was pregnant with his 3rd child, already had 2 kids. They're left now without their father. He's from Bangladesh. He was a man of faith. He was only on the force for 3.5 years. And so that picture, again, I keep going to back to that picture. And in this job, you see certain things that you kind of will never unsee. And I think that's one of them for me and probably for many people in the country, that picture.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. So you mentioned CTE. Can you tell us just a little bit more about what CTE is? And you said it can't be diagnosed while people are still alive.
Yeah, that's right. So CTE is a brain condition that experts have been heavily researching extensively now, really the past 15 years. The NFL was actually sued over this. It's a condition many experts believe in the medical field caused by the constant contact brain trauma that football brings. So the tackling, the head-to-head hits, that sort of thing, and it can cause a number of symptoms in folks where basically they kind of lose their grip on life. I'm not a doctor by any means, but this is my best understanding of it, where it's confusing for them. It's a brain condition that causes serious problems with their ability to live a normal life. but it's a condition that can only be diagnosed after you're dead. And so because of that, it's been hard to get the NFL in the past to even recognize it. There, as I mentioned, that very large lawsuit that was brought upon the NFL caused massive changes in the NFL, the way the helmets are made, how many hours they practice a day, whether or not they wear pads during those practices. And you might, if you follow the NFL, they wear these funny-looking caps now. They're called Guardian caps, and they're basically these marshmallows that they wear on their helmets now in practice that they basically have to wear now, and that's to reduce the likelihood of getting CTE. So this person believes just playing in high school, what I'm extrapolating here is that he got CTE, and he even said in his note that it caused him to drink a gallon of antifreeze, that condition caused him to do that. He said he was blaming it on that, and then he put the blame at the foot of the NFL for that. So it's a very serious condition. The NFL was forced basically to recognize it through litigation, and now on that front, without losing too much focus on the victims, there's also a Blackstone executive that we can get into as well, who was a victim and shot and killed. But the NFL has a mess on its hand after this, no doubt. They had it about 15 years ago with CTE, and I think it's coming again now for another reckoning because of this.
It was incredibly helpful. That was Marcus Espinoza, News Nation national correspondent, live on the scene in Manhattan where this horrible shooting took place. And Holly, it's interesting, he pushes the wrong button on the elevator and gets off on the 33rd floor. I don't know what floor the NFL was on, but he just comes out of the elevator and starts shooting, kills another person, and didn't actually get to his target, which was the NFL. And it's like you say, this CTE is something that can only be diagnosed post-mortem, whether he had it or not. It's a condition that is, I think it derives from multiple concussions or at least blows to the head. When we come back, the Utah Sheriff's Association is defending its decision to increase cooperation with ICE while immigration crackdowns are spreading fear in Utah's Latino community. When we come back.
AARP Utah is excited to share a big win for Utahns on their electric bill, thanks to the Public Service Commission's decision. Instead of the original crippling proposal of a 30% increase, your Rocky Mountain power bill will go up less than 5%. AARP Utah wants to thank over 3,000 of its members who stepped up to help. You used your voice and sent postcards addressing your concerns that were hand-delivered to the Commission. You made a difference. Your voices were heard. And thanks to you and other AARP Utah members, critical electricity for so many will remain on. Buildings will remain safe, cool, and the possible hardship for so many has been averted. AARP Utah also extends thanks to the Commission for protecting access to affordable energy programs critical to so many. To learn more about AARP Utah's work and how you can get involved, visit aarp.org/UT. That's aarp.org/UT.
At KSL News Radio, we have a 30-year legacy of honoring Utah teachers, but we can't do it without your help. Please tell us about an important teacher in your life on the KSL Teacher Tribute Wall, presented by Cypress Credit Union. Each month, one lucky teacher wins a $500 gift card from Cypress Credit Union, a $250 gift card to Harmon's, plus season tickets to Hale Center Theater. Say thanks to your teacher today at kslnewsradio.com/teacher from Cypress Credit Union and KSL News Radio.
At Fisher Investments, we may seem like other money managers, but we're different.
What makes you so different than the rest of us?
We ensure clients receive unparalleled service at every step of the relationship.
Tell me more.
Our investment counselors focus on service over sales, prioritizing clients' needs.
How do you make money?
We don't sell any commission-based products. We have a simple management fee based on the value of our clients' portfolio. So we do better when our clients do better.
What about client portfolios?
We get to know each client, their finances, family, health, lifestyle, and more, and then we tailor a portfolio based on their specific goals and needs.
Your clients really come first then, huh?
Yes, we make them a top priority. Our goal is helping them achieve a comfortable retirement.
Wow, maybe we are different.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
Hi, this is Derek Overstreet, president of the New Millennium Group and co-host of Stop Working, Start Living with KSL News Radio. Can you imagine what your life would be like if you could retire 3 to 5 years earlier than you thought possible? The things you could do, the loved ones you could spend time with, the memories that you could create. That's what our team at the New Millennium Group does. We'll walk you through the entire process every step of the way. If you'd like to get a copy of the 5-step proprietary plan that will help you retire 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible, give us a shout right now. 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370 or utahsfinancialplanner.com. Listen, most of our listeners right now have a tax problem, not a money problem. There's not enough money in Social Security Medicare as it is. Let us show you how you can significantly reduce your taxes. That's 888-999-6370, 888-999-6370, or utahsfinancialplanner.com.
You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Coonahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have Leaf Filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/deal to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
That's leaffilter.com/deal for your free gutter inspection today. See representative for warranty details. Promotion is 20% off plus a 10% senior or military discount. One discount per household.
And expanded Inside Sources.
And welcome back to Inside Sources. Remember, you can stream us on the KSL News Radio app, sponsored by At Your Service Pros. Holly, when we were here Friday, we were talking about a lawsuit that had been filed in Colorado by the Colorado Attorney General against a Colorado police officer who arguably, according to the lawsuit, violated Colorado state law by cooperating with ICE authorities in as much as he had stopped a Utah nursing student who was following a truck a little too closely, shared her identification, name, and whatnot, personal information about her with ICE agents. He didn't have anything to arrest her for, except he gave her a warning for following too close, but detained her for 20 minutes, shared information about her to ICE, gave them time to come up.
Including her location.
Right, and they rolled up on the scene just as she was leaving, arrested her, took her into custody, and I think she spent like 6 or 7 days in a 15 days, that's right. 15 days in a Colorado prison, in a jail, waiting for deportation. And she wasn't even, she had an expired visa or something. She was here on a student visa. I don't recall exactly. But anyway, she'd been here legally. It had just expired. She needed to get it up to speed. There was a controversy about that. And the controversy involved, I'm getting to the subject here eventually, the cooperation between law enforcement and federal immigration authorities. Right. And that brings us to Utah, because our Sheriff's Association is meeting right now in Kane County, and they have discussed entering into just the opposite, which is cooperative agreements between local sheriffs and ICE agents. And I think we talked to a Utah County Commissioner a week ago about the fact that they were opening up lines of communication between the Sheriff's Office and ICE agents, at least in Utah County. And there are a couple counties that are doing this almost on seemingly a county-by-county basis.
Right. You know, one of the things that's interesting to me as I read these, right? So when Utah County had their hearing, we had Commissioner Powers Gardner on with us, but they had over 100 people there to speak against this agreement, right? And one of the things that the Utah County Commission said is, I don't think people really understand what these agreements do. Now, they're known as 287G agreements, and when we researched that, you and I, we found that there were 3 different things that they could enter into an agreement with under this 287G. So one of the things that's interesting, I think, about what the Utah Sheriff's Association is emphasizing, and this is that they have no interest, and I'm paraphrasing, but they have no interest in rounding up people and doing any kind of mass incarceration, right? They're like, we're not equipped for that. If the federal agents are going to do that, then they're going to have to do that on their own. But what they want to do is restore communication that they feel like had been lacking before. And they really want, this is what they're saying, they really want to be able to have shared communication for people who are being picked up on larger crimes. We're talking assault and murder, right? Those types of higher order felonies.
Yeah, and that level of cooperation has sort of evolved a little bit. First of all, it's not always a two-way street. That is to say, and I think that Amelia Powers Gardner talked about this a little bit, that ICE would share information with local sheriff's office, but the converse wasn't necessarily true.
Right.
And as she was talking about how the level of cooperation would move forward. But we've always assumed, at least for the last several years since we've been really getting more and more involved in the immigration and deportation, that once an individual is incarcerated by local law enforcement, that information is shared pretty liberally with the national, the immigration authorities and whatnot. Because a person's in custody, you would expect ICE would have some pretty serious interest in that. But we haven't typically shared information like I talked about in the Colorado. We just simply stop somebody on the street for speeding or whatever and learn of their immigration status and say, oh, we're going to share that with ICE agents. We haven't historically done that. And I don't know that the Utah Sheriff's Association is espousing going quite that far, but they are saying we're not going to be restricted, at least in terms of of our ability to communicate with national authorities.
Yeah, and one of the issues again is that there had been a lack of communication. So we both had the Utah County Sheriff, Mike Smith, and he was part of this getting into this agreement, right? At least encouraging the Utah County Commission. But he was the immediate past president of the Utah Sheriff's Association, and they actually went back to D.C. in May to talk to top officials with ICE. And there has been a change in the Salt Lake City field office here, and it feels like, this is what they're saying. It feels like it's much more cooperative. It's very open. So the new person here is, what's his name? It's Knight. Jason Knight, and Mike Smith calls him very open and transparent. The improved dialogue needed to happen because there just hadn't been. The previous guy said Utah was a sanctuary state, and there was some clash and some animosity there, right, with that. And so now we've got this communication. But again, when we go back to the fear that people have, right, the current head of the Utah Sheriff's Association, which is the Kane County Sheriff, he says sheriffs don't go out and pick people up on immigration violations. That's a law enforcement thing. They're not involved with that. They don't want to be involved with that. That's what he said. But the fear is real.
Yeah, and they're still entering into some level of agreement to cooperate with federal authorities. I think what they're trying to say is to the public, we're not going to be immigration authorities. We're not going to be doing deportation and immigration. But what they're telling the federal government, the federal agencies, we will cooperate. We will have some level of sharing of information with you as we learn more about individuals who are, I guess, being detained or in our custody or whatnot. So, right now there's a lot going on in this country as it relates to ICE and immigration crackdowns. And there's so much media that seems to be, and it goes both ways, but mostly right now we're hearing more sympathy, I think, towards some individuals who are being detained.
Right.
More than we have in the past.
Right. And I think the stories that we're seeing, right, is there's a lot of overreach. In fact, one of the stories I included in my newsletter this morning was an American citizen who was detained, and he filmed his own arrest, and the ICE agents are telling him, again, U.S. citizen, but he's brown, you have no rights here. And they were beating him, right? Yeah. And it's just those kinds of stories don't inspire confidence, right? So I think the Sheriff's Association, their efforts are to say, hey, look, we're not out here to round people up. We're here to have this agreement with ICE when we have people who have committed these more heinous crimes. But there has been a trickle-down effect even in Utah with the Hispanic and Latino community in Utah.
And even though we're talking about the Utah Sheriff's Association, which is an association of all of the sheriffs, every county in Utah has an elected sheriff, I think. They get together and talk about what they're doing and try to cooperate. But when we talk about these 287G agreements, as I'm reading between the lines here, they seem to be on a county by county, or at least jurisdiction by jurisdiction. In other words, they're not speaking as a group and saying all county sheriffs are going to do this.
Right.
Different counties are doing different things.
Right.
And we talked about at least two of the counties, Utah and I think Kane, that have these more explicit agreements with ICE, whereas some of the other counties you'd expect Salt Lake would be a little bit more circumspect. And it's good that you can have those sort of give and take within each county. I would think as we're talking about this more and more, especially when I was reading the Colorado lawsuit, I thought at some point is the United States government going to jump in and say there has to be some level of cooperation? Is Congress going to come in and say law enforcement has to cooperate with federal authorities? I don't know that we're ever going to get to that point. But otherwise, we have state by state and now county by county decisions and how that works out.
Sure. Look, just briefly before we go to our break, there are at least 2 cultural events for Utah's Latino community that have canceled because of this fear, right, for the immigration crackdown. And so attendance is down basically across the board. But a Chilean cultural group canceled an event for September that's been going for more than 20 years. And there's another smaller one in Orem that canceled plans because of this decision, feeling like that makes them even bigger targets than they were before.
And canceling in large part because they're not sure people are going to show up because they're a target. You bring a group of individuals together who are from various countries of origin, and you're going to draw some attention. And I think they're thinking, why have an event? Nobody's going to show up anyway.
And there are some who are saying, look, it would be wrong for us to go ahead and cancel these. We need to show that we're not afraid. And so multiple are still going forward, but attendance will be down.
Yeah, tragic. When we come back, as misuse of millions of dollars of public funds in Utah due to a lack of oversight, how did this happen? Utah's State Auditor Tina Cannon joins us in studio next to talk about what her office found.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour, we're learning more about the 3 people found dead in Millard County. The sheriff's office says the 2 adults appear to have died from gunshot wounds in a murder-suicide. They've been identified as 28-year-old Jay Stevens and 67-year-old Colleen Halsey. A 23-month-old child was dead at the scene, but the cause of death has not been released. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Over 165 million Americans are under a heat dome today, with temperatures near the triple-digit mark. ABC's Victor Oquendo is in Savannah, Georgia.
Parts of Florida expecting it to feel as hot as 116 degrees. People across the region struggling to make it through their day.
It's so hot that it's hard to breathe.
Frontline workers telling us they've been going nonstop, treating heat-related conditions.
Here in Utah, the expected high is going to be 99 today, but without the humidity people are dealing with in the south. Researchers say the vaccine of the future could be delivered through flossing your teeth.
A regular vaccine shot creates antibodies in our bloodstream. But right now, the researchers, they're testing out this vaccine floss on animals. They say the results have been encouraging because the floss contacting our gums, it stimulates antibodies in our mucus, and that can go into our nose and lungs. That gives us added protection to the places where viruses attack first. Now, these results, they're published in the journal Nature Biomedical Engineering, but there are some drawbacks to this flossing technique, including it wouldn't work on infants and toddlers. Randall Jepson, KSL News Radio.
Your money at this moment, the Dow down 206 points to 44,633. Coming up, as we just mentioned, it's going to be hot, it's going to be dry and windy. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time 10:01.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
You probably saved my life.
Every single day, Soda Weight Loss is helping people let go of the weight and keep it off.
I mean, I was 30 pounds overweight, and I went in, and the doctor said, you need to change your diet.
Get help and get started with Soda Weight Loss.
Got off my blood pressure medicine and my cholesterol medicine, and that is amazing to me.
I went from a 16, 18 down to a size 4 now. So that is amazing. It makes you feel so good.
Splash into summer savings right now with Soda's lowest prices of the year.
No injections, no pills, no hunger.
I would recommend Soda because it's sustainable. This is lifetime change.
I let go of 50 pounds. It felt unreal.
We're the #1 weight loss company in America for client satisfaction and results. And with our incredible summer savings, what are you waiting for?
Get help. Get results at SOTA-weightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com.
Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Coonahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have Leaf Filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/deal to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
That's leaffilter.com/deal for your free gutter inspection today. See representative for warranty details. Promotion is 20% off plus a 10% senior or military discount. One discount per household.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Heather Kelly.
Well, the biggest issue we have on the roadways is the closure of 1100 South in Salt Lake City. This is at 5600 West. All eastbound and westbound lanes are shut down while crews still try to work on this rolled semi that's blocking all the lanes of travel. Need to find an alternate route there, but the good news is 5600 West itself is open in both directions. And then you just have your orange bells you have to contend with in Tooele County on the west side belt northbound between the 201 and I-80 West interchanges. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, we should see a high of 99 degrees today and expect more afternoon winds. We'll basically be on repeat for the next 3 days, although it may not get that hot. Right now, the sun started to poke back out in Salt Lake City, but it's still mostly cloudy and 79 degrees. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
When we opened the show this morning, we broke some news involving a investigation that had been done by the Utah State Auditor's Office that found a misuse of millions of dollars in public funds in Utah due to a lack of oversight. And we're lucky this morning to be joined by the state auditor, Tina Cannon, in a room with us, which is incredibly nice, to talk about this and break this down. So we've been trying to read this report this morning. We got it early. We weren't sure if we could talk about it. We weren't sure when it was going to break down. But just tell our listeners generally about the group that was being investigated.
So this is an entity called Impact Utah, but it was running manufacturing grants. These are targeted grants to increase the amount of manufacturing within the state of Utah. So this is called an MEP grant, but the primary recipient by legislative mandate was Impact Utah. And Impact Utah, what we saw is Impact Utah over time was doing a lot of really great work. We interviewed some really great employees that felt really great about where their jobs were headed, what they were doing for the company. But as the legislative funding increased, the amount of money coming into the entity increased, and this allowed for varied uses beyond what was intended with a manufacturing incentive grant. So there was a lot of misuse by the president of Impact Utah in being able to fund salaries, bonuses, personal credit card expenses that were on the company card and then reimbursed through the company. So you see vacations, you see massages, you see haircuts, you see it's
things not necessarily part of the agenda for Impact Utah.
Yeah, not what we would consider promoting manufacturing within the state of Utah. I'm not quite sure how a dolphin excursion would do that, but you know,
Right.
We don't have a lot of dolphins here.
So let me ask you this question. First of all, how did you start investigating this?
So we run a hotline through the state auditor's office, and in waste, fraud, and abuse cases, still the most common referral to a hotline is how those cases come to light, especially ones this large. It's typically a whistleblower inside that will give us a call and let us know. In this case, they were very, very frustrated. They had documented quite a bit, sent it to our office along with several other offices. But in the state of Utah, the state auditor's office is the most well situated for a financial investigation of this type.
So when we're talking about grant money, though, you would expect that there would have already been audits and oversights in place. I mean, I know anytime I've dealt with issues involving grant money, you've got to fill something out every year.
Right.
You've got to account for yourself. What happened here?
So unfortunately, in this case, that's one of the disturbing things and the lessons to be learned. There are 1,800 government agencies across the state of Utah, and we're hoping to get this message out to those 1,800 that this is entirely possible to happen in your organization as well. When we don't establish the restrictions and the requirements for reporting back how a grant is used and where that money goes, this is what can happen with that money. And it is up to that entity. In this case, it was GOEO, the University of Utah, and Utah State University, who would have had oversight over this money in making sure that it was used appropriately. This was matching federal funding, and federal requirements require very in-depth scrutiny over how that money is used with deliverables reported back, and it's a reimbursement basis. In this situation where it was grant money given and then reporting required, typically we would prefer to see in the state auditor's office, of course, a reimbursement basis. Once they have actually performed, you would give them the money. In this case, they gave them the money up front, and because it was generously funded, it gave the ability for excess money to be given out in bonuses to the president, in excessive salary to the president, and in this case, he was able to buy another company with the proceeds from this grant.
That seems to be a problem.
Yeah, we don't necessarily encourage purchasing a whole new company with grant money.
Right.
Yeah. So one of my questions, right, as I read your report, was it seemed to me with 3 different entities that should have been looking at this, that maybe all 3 of them thought somebody else was doing it. Was that part of the problem?
We got that a lot over pointing at the finger other places. In the state auditor's office, when any one of those 1,800 government entities distributes over $25,000, they are supposed to notify us who they gave it to, and that kicks our oversight in to now we require a budget, we require financials. This amount of money, we would have required audited financial statements, which would have stopped this type of thing from happening. But because we didn't know, because nobody told us they'd given Impact Utah this money, we didn't request the information from Impact Utah. And the same thing is happening with the direct appropriation from the legislature. GOEO felt like, well, we don't have any authority here. The legislature has said, give the money. We have to give the money. Utah State would have been the ultimate oversight over this. You'll have to read the report for their response. I don't like to put words in their mouth, but I was a little shocked that if they are expecting that the state auditor will catch things like this, then I definitely need every citizen in the state of Utah to know I have a hotline, and if you see waste, fraud, and abuse, you need to call the hotline and report it. I would expect that USU would be able to provide that type of oversight in requiring an entity to report back how they use the money.
So let me ask you this, and we're joined this morning by State Auditor Tina Cannon. Internally within Impact Utah, don't they have their own internal auditing or accounting department or something? I mean, wasn't there? Yes. And I know that you got this from a whistleblower. Maybe it's the exact sort of group that I'm talking about. So some of these
are a little hard for me to answer because it is a whistleblower. But we did interview employees within the company, and we did know that, yes, but it is difficult without a functioning board. He was not meeting IRS requirements for the organization of the company either. And when the functioning board consisted of one person who was not really there, and the president is writing a contract that says this is within my contract, the accountant is placed in a position where their job is on the line, or not, but there can be undue influence over how the money goes out. But that's how we were able to tell how much money went out. But why it's also vague, because there's a commingling of funds between the company that he bought and Impact Utah, you can't, the money switching back and forth without receivables, without payables, without any documentation over work done or completed makes it very difficult to be able to track what was happening. So we see a lot of money funneled out of Impact Utah to Verio, and then you see, but you don't see any type of invoicing for what they were funneling the money out for. We do see even on wire transfers where he's purchasing assets, and that documentation is on there. But in a small entity like this where you have control by one person, this type of thing becomes easier and easier to do.
So quick question, and then I hope you'll stay for our next segment. But if the legislature is mandating that these funds be paid to a certain entity, do they not take on some responsibility for oversight?
So that's a great question. There was legislation passed in 2024. So for the last 6 months of this period, there was a tighter statute written telling the grant oversight agencies that they were responsible to make sure, and then also that if a grant recipient misused the money, they would be subject to clawback. If an audit showed misuse, they would be subject to clawback. So that will be an interesting test of this, whether or not, because the auditor's office can only report what's happened, it will be then up to the Attorney General's office to determine clawback measures to this entity. But that was one of the reasons why we hurried to get this report out by July 1. They were on the docket by another direct appropriation from the legislature for fiscal 2026 to receive another $1.8 million to the very same company. Without this report going out, we had grave concerns that that money would be distributed still, even knowing that the entity was non-functional.
Does this lack of concern and lack of oversight affect other organizations? We're going to find out that after the break if we can get our state auditor, Tina Cannon, to stay with us for one more segment. Stay with us.
Behind the curtain of Utah and Washington politics.
It seems like the federal government is now saying to the states, you have much more control of your destiny.
And expanded inside sources.
And so our legislature is trying to figure out what their boundaries are.
Well, even like FEMA, right?
Yes.
Wildfire disasters.
The all-new Inside Sources.
If we have to pay for it all of ourselves, can we afford that as a state?
Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson, now on 9 to noon on KSL News Radio.
Hi, this is Doug Wright on The Wright Household. We have been anxiously awaiting Footloose at Hale Center Theater. Utahns have a great relationship with the classic movie, and now the chance to see it at Hale Center Theater on stage. The energy and the performances just off the charts, dialed to 11. There are supporting roles from a vintage VW Bug that I loved, and even a 70s-era well-used Chevy pickup. You will love Footloose, and boy, I forgot how many hits are part of this great story. The live element, too, to the music is something that I always love. And by the way, when Ariel's dad, the good Reverend Moore, comes around on the dance, it is perfect. Footloose. It's underway right now, Hale Center Theater. And don't forget, still to come, Murder of the 1940s Sister Act Frozen. And be sure to go to hct.org not only to get your tickets to Footloose, but look at the 2026 season 2.
The Social Security Administration just announced they are now projected to run out of money 1 year earlier than expected. Benefits could be cut by as much as 23%, and the average person could lose more than $100,000 in lifetime income. This news could significantly change when you file for Social Security. Discover how you could get every penny out of your benefits with a free Social Security analysis from Boss Retirement Solutions. If you've saved more than $300,000 and have not filed for Social Security, schedule your free analysis now by calling 801-896-9622. This free, customized analysis could help you get every penny out of Social Security. Call 801-896-9622. That number again, 801-896-9622.
Boss Retirement Solutions is not affiliated with the Social Security Administration.
Do you know how America became the best country on God's green earth? We made things, from automobiles to airplanes to textiles. We were the manufacturing epicenter of the world, the innovators that every other country turned to. I'm Katie Lyon, co-founder of Allegiance Flag Supply, and I'm here to tell you that the American spirit is alive and well at Allegiance, where we make American flags 100% in America. When you fly your American flag from Allegiance Flag Supply, you're not just honoring our country. You're supporting American men and women who proudly make the highest quality American flags, period. True patriots who put care into every stitch. See our full story at showallegiance.com and learn about our 100% American-based supply chain. Fly your flag from showallegiance.com with pride, because every flag says manufacturing is still alive and well in the U.S. and we are still the greatest country. Visit showallegiance.com, and from all of us, thank you for your support.
Don't let the wrong gear cost you that trophy animal. Upgrade your arsenal with premium brands at great prices during the Shields Hunting Sale event on now through August 3rd. From bows, crossbows, and archery accessories to camo from brands like First Light, Sitka, and Shields Outfitters, every piece of gear is hand-selected for serious hunters like you. Join the community of hunters who trust Shields experts to outfit their adventures and get more bang for your buck in-store or online now through August 3rd at Shields.
Any Hour Services can make sure your AC keeps you cool this summer. Whether you need a tune-up, repair, or just a second opinion about replacing it, call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
Mom and Dad used to argue about everything, especially about Dad's drinking. My family went from totally crazy to quiet, calm, and even peaceful when Mom started going to Al-Anon family groups. I wanted a better relationship with Dad, so I asked Mom if she would take me to her Al-Anon meetings or to Alateen. I'm sure glad I did. If someone's drinking troubling you, you might be surprised at what you can learn in an Al-Anon or Alateen family group from people just like you. Call 1-888-4-ALANON or go to alanon.org.
And expanded Inside Sources.
And we're back with Inside Sources, talking with Utah State Auditor Tina Cannon about a troubling finding and a press release that they've coming out with today involving an entity in Utah here called Impact Utah. We've been talking about that group. We've been talking about the money that was missing and sort of the extent of your audit. I wanted to ask you another question about this, and if you can talk about it, that's fine. If you can't, I understand. But I'm a lawyer, and I've done prosecution and defense work, and I read this and I think, that sounds like a crime. It sounds like misuse of public funds is right up there. I assume that either the Attorney General's office or the county attorney or somebody has been at least involved in this. And if you can't talk about it, I understand. But so it would seem there has to be a referral.
There is, and there was. So, and that is the double-edged sword of being the state auditor is our independence requires us to just do the investigation. We are not part of management, and we are not part of the prosecution portion of this. So we can make recommendations, and we have done that. We have referred this on to the AG's office. We have already had conversations with their criminal investigations team this morning, and time is of the essence in a case like this where we are looking at trying to recover any of this money. So we've already made that referral, and that is part of this. That leads us into trying to get the money back is never the best way to go. The best way to go is to provide proper oversight going in so that the money is used appropriately, everybody's happy, taxpayers' funds got used appropriately and for what they intended it to be used for and not for a personal benefit. We have joked as we've talked about this. I think I mentioned it to you earlier. Unfortunately, in a government appropriation, people have the idea the money gets appropriated to a nonprofit that nobody is profiting, and that's just not what we're seeing. And unfortunately, across Utah, these appropriations are going to entities that are set up as a nonprofit, but that does not mean nobody's profiting.
Right.
Their ability to set salaries that are above the market rate is very, very apparent in these entities. And when it goes to that third entity, the oversight from the state auditor's office, from the office of the legislative auditors, becomes more difficult. And that's where it is inherently important that the agencies understand they have a role to play here, and that the oversight that needed to be exercised over this money was supposed to be happening from the agencies who actually cut the check and gave the money to Impact Utah. And we just were not seeing that with so many in a chain of command like this, where you've got multiple entities from the legislature to GOEO to Utah State. that muddies the water in who actually had the responsibility to oversee the contract. And that is our caution back, that we are making sure for all 1,800 government agencies across the state that they are making sure when they distribute taxpayer money that they are providing the proper oversight for how that money is being used and that it is being used appropriately.
So can you tell us what is actually happening with Impact Utah and the person at the top?
So I do believe, like I said, we do the investigation, and I do believe that the entity is no longer functioning. There are a lot of really sad employees who are doing really good work who are no longer with the company anymore. Legally, I where that will all go has yet to be determined, but I don't think it's going to be a functioning entity very much longer. It was already non-compliant with IRS rules, so we are not expecting that it will survive.
I obviously work in the criminal justice world a little bit, and you recognize that. I appreciate that. When I prosecute and when I defend, we always think of the terms of follow the money.
Yeah.
If your part of your mission here is to recoup or claw back some of that, is there have you found the money? I mean, I know that you've already defined where a lot of it was just lost.
And I'm trying to be really careful in walking that line between I'm not the criminal investigator here.
Right.
I am just reporting what we found. But yes, we were able to follow the money, and we are able to show where it does leave and the commingling of funds between the two companies that we have named. And that's substantial. You may not be able to look at Impact Utah, but there is another entity that is still in existence.
So can you talk to us about what remedies can there be moving forward? Is this the only case? Is this an isolated case?
I wish it was an isolated case, but the state auditor's office does run the whistleblower hotline. We get on average between 5 and 10 reports a week. I have 3 full-time people. I need more people than that to be able to deal with the investigations that are referred to us. So there is an allocation of taxpayer resources that I have to do as well over choosing the priorities for what we look at. We wish it was an isolated incident, but that's why I'm here today talking about it. We need the word to get out to all of the government entities that they are responsible for this and that they need to be looking in their own in-house. Are we providing proper oversight, or is the money being used appropriately? And then I would say to the nonprofits, because I met with one yesterday who was pushing back over turning over financial records. If you are going to if you don't want the state auditor to look at what you're doing in your business, don't take government money. That should just be a rule. And you should just expect that if you took government money, I'm going to ask you what you did with it. And that should be expected by anyone who is running a nonprofit who is receiving substantial government money. In the case yesterday, they're receiving $4.5 million a year, and they want to push back over, well, you can't see what we're doing. We're a nonprofit. You are funded with government money. The oversight needs to happen, and you will report back what's going on inside your entity. So I would caution it to the private sector. If you don't want my oversight, don't take the money.
You've used the word oversight 3 or 4 times, and I appreciate that because I'm looking at your findings, and it seems like if you broke each of them down, it would be lack of oversight, lack of oversight. I mean, so looking forward, what can you do, or are you advising these various entities in the state that, hey, we need more oversight within your organization?
Yeah.
And that you're going to get more involved as well?
Right. We had recommended, and our first recommendation was that these grants should be done on a reimbursement basis. After you've actually performed, then come back and apply for the grant. We've received pushback from the legislature on wanting to do a reimbursement because some of the entities are smaller and need seed money. But in those cases, the restrictions on how the money can be used and what those deliverables look like should be defined in the contract. And there should be in the contract, before the money is released, what the expectation of what you will see reported back for that use. We would expect a tightening up of those contracts, that everybody is very clear that they will be reviewed, and that we will expect to see the deliverables if you receive government money.
Do you think there's any kind of legislative action that can be taken to strengthen that oversight?
Yes, we have a separate letter with this report underneath to the legislature recommending changes to a bill. I'm sorry, the name of the bill leaves me at this point, but it was a bill passed in 2024. Back to Val Peterson. He did great work in starting a tightening of that oversight and what was expected over the grant issuer of the grant and who that is. We've made several recommendations back to the legislature on how they could tighten that up more. What we would love to see, that we don't get everything we want, unfortunately, but we've made several recommendations. That, like I said, it's the double-edged sword. I can only make the recommendations, but the independence of my office, I can point it out, I can make recommendations, but they are independent of me too. So they get to choose what they will listen to and what they won't.
Do you think there's a way that the legislature can give more authority within your office to jump in and do oversight of these grants? Just give you that authority, or fund something like that? Because we're talking about a loss here of 2.8 potentially. $2.8
It is
million.
not lost on me that the amount of money that I asked for in my budget increase to fund experienced auditors in my office is the exact amount of money that was lost annually in this report. So yes, there are a lot of things they could do. When it comes to audit, experienced financial auditors are crucial. And that means I need to be able to pay the market rate, or I lose the experience that is necessary to know what should be happening. You don't want oversight. In the state of Utah, we're pushing $100 billion. That oversight in the state auditor's office should not be happening at the intern level. That's just the wrong way to go. You do not want oversight of billions of dollars done with interns. I need to be able to pay qualified, competent staff for what and compete in Utah's housing market. That's always difficult in the office.
Thanks for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome.
Very kind of you, especially to stick around for 2 segments. We learned a lot from you today.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. And like I said, our goal here today is to make sure everybody is aware of what we found and that other government entities look inside their own house to see if they've got it happening there. Thank you for the time.
You bet. Tina Cannon, a Utah State Auditor. When we come back, we've all heard it. Get your 10,000 steps in every day. Did you, Tina, get your 10,000 steps in?
I did on my way here.
There you go, yes. But there's science to back up that number. Is there? I don't know anymore. We'll talk with Lois Collins when we come back.
10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top local story this hour is a developing one. We've learned that former Relief Society General President of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Bonnie D. Parkin, passed away Monday at the age of 84. Parkin was the 14th Relief Society General President, serving from 2002 to 2007. Funeral services have not yet been announced. Almost 200 people in a small rural town in Washington County now have access to clean running water after a new pipeline was installed. Apple Valley is by the Utah-Arizona border and has been living without the clean water for almost 10 years. The state, mayor's office, local water district, and contractors all played a role in finishing the pipeline. Our top national story this hour from ABC News: 5 people shot and 4 of them were killed during an attack inside an office building in Midtown Manhattan last evening. ABC's Will Reeve with the latest.
In a note to employees of the NFL, one of the high-profile tenants of 345 Park, Commissioner Roger Goodell sharing that a league employee was seriously injured in the attack. He is in the hospital in stable condition. And Goodell also writing that employees should work from home, at least for today, adding, quote, "We will get through this together."
One of the people killed was an off-duty NYPD officer who was working as a security guard. Your money at this moment: the Dow's down 166 points to 44,670. Coming up, we're stuck in a rut. A hot rut. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time, 10:31.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
I'm back to doing what I love and more. Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Does your job require you to be on your feet all day? Teachers, postal carriers, salespeople, and restaurant staff. Many of us need our feet to get us through the day. Hi, this is Mike with the Good Feet store, and I'd like you to hear from Donna. She's a nurse and a real customer of the Good Feet store who wanted to share her story.
Oh, I have to tell you, I have struggled with pain in my feet. I was diagnosed with plantar fasciitis. With the 3-step program, it really fits to your lifestyle. I work in a hospital. I'm a registered nurse, so being on my feet, walking throughout the hospital during the day, I am free from any type of pain. And after working a 12-hour shift, I go home and my feet do not hurt.
Whether you're a nurse or anyone wanting to enjoy work without your feet getting in the way, come see us at the Good Feet store.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Schedule your free test walk at goodfeet.com.
When you bundle renters and auto with Progressive, you can save while protecting your most valuable possessions, like your priceless vinyl collection. Sure, you sleep on a futon because the money most people would have spent on a bed you spent on more records. But forget the fact that you can stream just about any song ever created for a few dollars a month. No, you need to listen to music in the most difficult way possible. So go ahead and get Progressive so you can save while protecting the things that matter to you. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates and other insurers. Not available in all states or situations.
If you didn't think skipping breakfast was a big deal, you'd be right. Before. But now, Wendy's has Buck Biscuits. We're talking sausage, egg, and cheese biscuit, bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit, or even the Honey Buddy chicken biscuit for just $1 each. Seriously, you can get all 3 if you want. They're just $1, so you'll never skip breakfast again. If you're smart. Breakfast for $1? Gotta be Wendy's.
Limited time only. Price and participation may vary. Limit 5 qualifying items per transaction. Not valid in a combo while supplies last.
I am not a rich woman, but I feel like a rich woman every time I go in my closet. The best, hands down, present I've ever received was my husband secretly redid my closet with Closets by Design. So now when I go in there aren't all these shoes just junked on the floor. They're neatly sitting on their shelves. And my necklaces are hanging on their individual hooks, and earrings are in their little squares in this soft drawer that pulls out. It's just gorgeous. In fact, he saw how much I loved it. He had Closets by Design redo the garage. So now all the stuff, the tools, the toys, the junk is all in cabinets. When you open our garage door, you see cars. That's it. It's amazing. The things that Closets by Design can do, and it's going to save you money right now because you get up to 40% off plus an additional 15% off with 18-month financing. You can do so much with your closet, much more than you realize, with this wonderful Utah company, Closets by Design. Find out more at 1-800-BY-DESIGN or closetsbydesign.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Heather Kelly.
We do have a bit of slowing right now southbound I-15 as you leave Kaysville, head through most of Farmington. It's due to the lane restrictions that happen every day this time of the day. But once you get past it and get into Centerville, you're going to be at good speeds all the way into downtown. You'll have a little bit of congestion from time to time on Mountain View Corridor through West Valley, as well as SR 36 coming out of Twila County at Lake Point. But other than that, right now, things are looking great with no accidents reported. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather for the next 3 days. Temperatures will be in the upper 90s, and it's going to be breezy, which is not helpful for our firefighters out on those wildfires. Right now, not too windy, but it is cloudy and 79 degrees in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
We've been told, Holly, for many years that hitting 10,000 steps a day is the baseline fitness level. And in fact, I think a lot of people buy those Fitbit and other watches so that they can measure their steps. I've never had one, and I don't know how it measures your steps anyway. But I guess there's something it does. It measures where you're moving around or whatnot. But this idea of getting 10,000 steps, and you'll even see people going, well, I need to do this. I need to get to my 10,000. But is 10,000 steps really the magic number?
Well, luckily, we have an expert with us. I don't know. I sometimes think that was just made up. Somebody just pulled it out of the air one day and say, hey, let's do this. Anyway, to join us and tell us about this is Lois Collins from the Deseret News. And so, is there truth behind the 10,000 steps?
Well, there's absolutely nothing wrong with 10,000 steps. But if it seems daunting to you, don't worry about it. You can get the same benefits almost. There's a little bit of difference with 7,000 steps.
Okay.
Which is kind of cool to know. And to your comment that somebody just pulled it out of the air, it was a marketer in Japan who was selling pedometer-like devices. And they named them the Man-Po-Kai pedometer. And Man-Po-Kai translates literally to 10,000 steps. There was nothing scientific at that time. But it wasn't a bad thing. I mean, if you're going to go for fitness, you would rather overshoot than undershoot.
Right,
So-
but it was a marketing campaign.
Yeah,
That's
well, it's a
exactly
nice
what it
round
was.
number. So what are we referring to, Lois? What is it that what group told us that 10,000 isn't exactly the right
So this
number?
is a new study out of the University of Sydney, but it's not the first one to say that you don't have to get quite as many steps. It's just the newest one to verify that. 7,000 seems to be the magic number. They looked at thousands and thousands and thousands of medical records and step records and a bunch of stuff to come up with this. And they looked at it in 1,000 step increments to see where the health improvements started to really
Interesting.
accrue.
Yeah.
So this one is really well designed. It's a very interesting study in that it says that the biggest thing is that you do better than you're doing right now. So if you are somebody who gets 2,000 steps a day, you should try to get 4,000 steps. If you are somebody who gets 10,000 steps, then you're probably set. But what you really need is to try to get that 7,000 to get all the benefits. And the benefits are pretty significant. They looked at 60 studies in 10 countries to get all of this data. And they said that dementia decreases by, the risk of dementia decreases by 38% if you get your 7,000 steps. If you get 10,000 steps, it decreases another 7%. So there's still some benefit there. Type 2 diabetes at 7,000 steps decreases 22%. There's benefits to health, death risk overall. Premature death risk. I mean, everybody's going to die, but premature death risk drops by 47% if you do that daily. And of course, the advice still stays that you need to get 150 minutes a week of moderate intensity exercise. If you're a vigorous exerciser, you can get by with 75%. But those of us who are more sedentary than we should be, should pay attention.
Mm-hmm. So studies are always interesting to me, right? And these meta studies where you're looking at multiple studies across multiple countries, those are great. Do you know how many people were included as they look at this big overall picture?
Altogether, with the 60 studies, it was like 1.4 million, I believe. It was a big study. And then they also compared it to databases like the Biobank.
Yeah, interesting.
So,
what I like about the 10,000 steps, or now the 7,000 steps, Lois, is that it's not weighted for your age or your fitness. I mean, it's a good baseline, I think, for everyone to follow and at least get that number of steps. I mean, I do cycling, and they always say, well, if you're this age, you need to do that, and you're that age, you need to do something else. But 7,000 steps is a good number of people can just look at and say, I want to get to that point. And you're talking about huge health benefits. I mean, the
These
risk
are big.
38% decrease in risk of dementia just by doing something as simple as 7,000 steps. I mean, that's a pretty significant reason why people should really look at this very closely.
Oh, it definitely is. And it's also achievable. I mean, I am not what I would consider a super exercisey human being. I spend way too much time at the computer, way too much time writing, and I can get in 7,000 steps in a day, pretty much living my life and taking a run around the block a couple of times. So it's not undoable.
That's good to know. I looked at my steps. I walked in a parade a couple of weeks ago. It was a couple of miles, and I got like 3,000 steps. I'm like, oh, bummer.
It's got to be more than that. Yeah.
It was depressing. Maybe I have long legs. Maybe that's it. I don't know.
Yeah, well, that actually does have something to do with it. We all have different strides.
Yeah.
And part of it's not even necessarily your length. It's how you walk. So that makes a difference too. But just if you're regularly getting 3,000, aim for 4,000. And when you're getting 4,000, then see what you can do with 5.
Yeah, that's always good advice, right? Is start where you are and then improve from there.
We wanted to talk to you about another study that you looked at, if we could pivot for just a minute.
The Pointer study?
Yeah, do you mind sharing that with our listeners?
No, it's really interesting to me. And this is another big study. This is a really big study. They were looking at mental decline and what older people could do. So they're talking about people in their 60s and 70s and what they can do to stave off any sort of age-related or dementia-related decline. And what they found is that with the structured program, that structured program was better than just doing it yourself, but they were both good. What you need to do is you need to exercise. You need to use the Mind Diet for your nutrition, and that's Mediterranean with the DASH diet added in. And the DASH diet was the one that I think it was the Heart Association came up with. That's to keep blood pressure under control. Then you need to do brain training, and one of the programs that they really tout, we talk about crossword puzzles and that kind of thing, but the one program that has been actually shown in studies to help is called Brain HQ. And I've done it, and it's actually really interesting. But the Brain HQ is a program that you have to subscribe to, or you can get it, I think, through some libraries. And it has different exercises that you do, and it's actually pretty brain intense. And then, of course, you have to exercise. So if you do all of these things, and this was the structured part that they followed, people committed to like 38 meetings in a 2-year period. They had daily assignments for what they did, and they really adhered to it. And they showed that you held steady, or your memory and thinking improved.
Wow.
So it was pretty amazing. Now, it's not long-term enough yet to say if they're diminishing returns after 5 years because you've done all these things and your brain's used to it. But if you want to turn back the clock and be smarter now in your 60s and 70s, this seems like a really good way to do it.
Wow, interesting. Can you share a little bit more? Well, we ran out of time.
We've got time. You want to ask about Brain HQ?
I do.
Yeah, tell us where people can find that.
So you can actually Google Brain HQ.
Okay.
It's literally Brain HQ. I can't think of the name of the company. I've written about them a couple of times. But they have this program that has you do all sorts of interesting things. It's a computer-based program, so it's like playing a video game, but it's not like playing a video game. It's very challenging. It's easy at the same time that it's very challenging, which I know is contradictory, but trust me, you'll see what I mean. And it has got probably 7 or 8 studies now that are independent studies, no relationship to Brain HQ, that say, yeah, this makes a difference.
That's so interesting.
Thanks, Lois. That was Lois Collins with the Deseret News telling us how to get fit. 7,000 steps a day now. When we come back, the European Union has now agreed to a tariff deal with the United States. A little bit lopsided, according to some people. We'll talk about the impacts of that when we come back. Remember, streaming live at KSLNewsRadio.com and on the app for KSL News Radio, sponsored by At Your Service Pros.
Your electric bill is going to be higher for summer, but not if you get new windows from Advanced Window Products. State-of-the-art double-pane windows and insulated frames, any style, any color, from a company that's been building them right here in Salt Lake City for 39 years. Not only are you buying local, but you're cutting out the middleman because they're the factory. You save 30, even 40% on your new windows, and you get a lifetime guarantee from a trusted local company. If there's a problem 5 years from now, they come right over and get things straight. And right now, you can save even more. If you call Advanced Windows for a quote, they'll give you an extra $2,500 off on 10 windows or more. Advanced Windows offers buy now, pay later. They have 60-month 0% financing. They always work out affordable payments, plus $2,500 off. So get your new windows for summer. Make the call now, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or you can go to advancedwindows.com.
You trust us for news and information in your car. Now trust us at home. KSL News Radio has you covered, keeping you informed on the latest breaking news, weather, traffic, sports, and more. Listen on your Amazon Echo or Google Home device. Just say, Alexa, open KSL News Radio, or listen on the KSL News Radio Listen app. Text the word app to 57500. KSL News Radio. We have you covered.
$5,000. That's the average amount of money people in the U.S. are now spending on gas in a year. $5,000. That's crazy. If you drive, you have to download Upside, the free app that gives you cash back every time you get gas. That's right. You can earn real cash back with Upside just by buying the gas you're already buying. You can literally start earning cash back today.
I use Upside every time I fill up, and I've already made around $300.
You're putting gas in your car anyway. Why not get real cash back? If you like free money, download Upside.
I'm saving the cash I earn from using Upside to help pay for a vacation later this year.
Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code POWER to get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code POWER for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code POWER for a 25 cents per gallon bonus.
It's going to be a hot one before you know it, and that means now is the time to get your lawn ready with an application of Revive Organic Soil Treatment. Revive takes every drop of water deep down to the roots, where your grass can use it. Use Revive in early summer. It's the protection your lawn needs to stay lush and green during the hot temperatures coming. With Revive, watering twice a week is like watering 4 times a week. You'll save water, you'll save money. Spread it, spray it. Use Revive now. It works.
1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today. 1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Donate your car today at carsforkids.org. That's cars with a K. Your car, running or not, can be picked up as soon as the next day. You'll get a maximum tax deduction and a vacation voucher.
1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Now accepting donations of land, homes, buildings, or any kind of real estate.
And expanded Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
We're learning that there is another trade agreement, this time between the United States and the European Union. That agreement seems to be done. European Union Commission President Ursula von der Leyen making a stop at Trump's golf course in Scotland to lock it in. It seems to be now that the European Union is now on board with I think it's a 15% tariff.
We have ABC senior political correspondent Rachel Scott, who can tell us a little bit about what that pact contains.
As part of the deal, the EU will buy American military equipment and $750 billion worth of American energy. And they will drop all tariffs on most American goods. The U.S., however, will impose a 15% tariff on most European products we import, including cars, pharmaceuticals, and computer chips. Economists warn American businesses will pay those tariffs and pass the cost along to consumers by raising prices.
That tariff agreement at 15% is down from what the president originally threatened, which was 30%, and that isn't really sitting well with everyone. Here's ABC's White House correspondent Karen Travers.
The European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said that this is a good deal that will bring stability to both sides of the Atlantic, but there is criticism coming from some European leaders. Spain's prime minister says he supports the trade agreement, but without any enthusiasm, and the Chancellor of Germany says his country's economy will suffer considerable damage as a result of these tariffs.
So we have with us on the line one of our favorite economists, and that's Robert Spendlove, senior economist with Zions Bank, to help us break it down. Hi, Robert.
It's great to be with you.
So we have talked with you before about tariffs and back and forth and so much uncertainty. Are we still uncertain here, or are these actually going to stick this time around?
Yeah, so we're starting to see these deals coming together. And this is a big one. The EU is one of the United States' largest trading partners. And Trump had been threatening to increase that tariff up to 30%. And so markets are, pretty encouraged that it's only 15%. But we've still got some really big trade deals. The U.S. is meeting with China right now, trying to come up with a deal. That's going to be our biggest one. But then we also have Canada and Mexico that are still left to be negotiated. But he put a deadline of August 1st. So that's Friday. And so that's what everyone's kind of watching.
Robert, is this 15% tariff agreement, does it go both ways? In other words, are U.S. goods, is there a tax on U.S. goods at 15%, or is it just European goods coming into this country?
It's just European goods coming into the U.S. And that's one of the responses that we've seen is, a lot of the European countries are not happy about this. They feel like they're being taken advantage of. And so we're seeing kind of a negative reaction. And so that's one of the things they have to be really careful about. They may have a short-term win, but longer term, this could harm our relationships with a lot of these countries.
So one of the things that I've seen in news stories about this is that it's pretty lopsided, and it sounds that way, right? If 15% is going to be passed on to American consumers, by the way. But it's on things that it feels like that we use a lot of, right? So cars, semiconductor equipment, like what are we talking about here?
Well, and the big one that's coming is pharmaceuticals. And you kind of have to break out the tariffs. There's two buckets. One bucket, they call it IEEPA, or it's tariffs on countries. And that's what we've been hearing a lot with, whether it's Japan or it's China or it's, Brazil. The second bucket is tariffs on individual items. And so we've seen 50% on copper, steel, aluminum, 25% on cars. And the one that everyone's waiting for is semiconductors, critical minerals, and then the big one, pharmaceuticals. And Trump has said he might be announcing pharmaceuticals in the next few days. That could be as high as 200%. So we could see significant impacts on drug prices.
So let me follow up with the pharmaceuticals, because I just assumed, Robert, that was all part of the package here, and that was maybe some hook that the European Union felt was important to keep those at the lower tariff rate rather than risk the 200%, if that makes sense. And I didn't realize that our country was such a huge importer of pharmaceuticals from the European Union. It was something like $120 billion in 2024. But are pharmaceuticals still yet to be decided as a part of this European Union agreement?
Yes, and that would be, the kind of legal argument for that, it's called Section 301 tariffs. And their argument there is that these are national security items. And so things that are so critical that we have to have more control over it. And now, while the IEEPA ones, or the country tariffs, have a weaker legal standing, the Section 301 have a much stronger legal standing. And so while the courts could soften some of these country-by-country tariffs, these Section 301 or these goods-specific tariffs, and you notice this, the way the Trump administration is taking the time, they're doing the research, they're building the legal argument, and I think once they do actually impose these, they will be stickier and tougher to undo.
I just have to ask, what kind of pharmaceuticals are we talking about? Do you know off the top of your head?
I don't have the exact list, but a lot of our pharmaceuticals come from outside of the country. The one that I heard, ibuprofen, about 97% of our ibuprofen comes from China. And if you kind of back up to during the pandemic, we had a breakdown in our pharmaceutical supply chain, and we weren't able to get those into America. And so one of their arguments is we need to be able to produce these pharmaceuticals for ourselves and not rely so much on foreign sources of this. Now, the counter argument to that, especially with some of the cheaper drugs or the generic drugs, is they have really thin profit margins, and they're saying we can't just build a new facility in America. We can't just move our production. So they say we're either going to have to raise our prices significantly, or we might just have to pull some of these products out of the American market.
Robert, where does this trade agreement and tariff agreement at 15% with the European Union fit within other agreements that the United States has made with other countries? For example, Japan. I remember that they had something going, or they were getting close to an agreement there. Does this 15% seem to be a number that the United States is looking at for a lot of its trade agreements?
Yeah. In fact, I think 15% is becoming the new base. And you kind of have to back up. So there's a policy argument on the tariffs, which the Trump administration has said they want to return production to America. But a second as big argument or one of their policy goals is to generate revenue. So they want the tariffs to generate revenue. In May alone, the tariffs that we've already, the U.S. has imposed, generated about $22 billion in revenue. On a year-over-year basis, that could be $300 billion a year. So they're targeting around this rate of about 15% to those countries that we're working with. Now, those smaller countries that don't have good trade representatives or don't have strong relationships with the U.S., they may see even higher rates. Countries like India or South Korea or Canada or Mexico, those are kind of the big questions that we're waiting to see.
Robert, the European Union as an organization is probably one of the largest trading entities in the world. Given that, it seems to be a lopsided deal. What was in it for these nations to do this? I mean, why did they, I guess, cave, for lack of a better word?
Well, and you have to think, because what is the alternative? What's the alternative to doing business with America? Well, you're essentially tying yourself more strongly to China, and China has not been a good trading partner with the EU either. You look, for instance, electric cars. China is dumping very cheap electric cars on the European market, as cheap as $10,000 to $15,000 for a car, because China is overproducing in a number of different ways. So the Europeans are saying, okay, we have to make a decision. Are we going to go with the U.S.? Are we going to go with the U.S. model? Or are we going to go with the Chinese model? And so I think they're making a rational decision that while we don't love this deal, it's better than being too closely tied to China.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Robert. You always are so good to educate us on what's happening.
And when we come back, out with an old restaurant and in with new housing. The Salt Lake City Planning Commission has approved a plan to turn an old Village Inn by the University of Utah into new housing when we come back.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour. Water managers are urging people to keep chugging along when it comes to saving water, especially now that the Great Salt Lake has reached its lowest level in 2 years. Great Salt Lake Commissioner Brian Steed says he's noticed more people are getting tired of being told to save water, but he says the low lake levels are going to take years of work to fix.
This drought is the real deal. And honestly, if we don't get it right, we're going to overuse or continue to overuse. We're going to have real human consequences. Part of those human consequences is a desiccating Great Salt Lake.
Steed is encouraging everyone to keep saving water for the lake. Today, it's 6 feet below its minimum healthy level. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Another pitcher with the Cleveland Guardians is benched after officials say he may have bet on his sport. More from ABC's Rhiannon Alley.
Cleveland Guardians pitcher Emmanuel Clase put on leave after Major League Baseball announced they were investigating his alleged role in a sports betting investigation. The Guardians putting out a statement saying, "We have been informed that no additional players or club personnel are expected to be impacted."
Pitcher Luis L. Ortiz is on leave until August 31st. Experts say some players may be involved with placing so-called prop bets, which are smaller bets that don't have anything to do with which team will win. Your money at this moment, the Dow in the negative today, down 146 points to 44,691. Coming up, it's been breezy and cloudy today, but will there be any water? How warm is it going to get? KSL Weather's next. KSL News Time, 11:01.
The Source is where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
You probably saved my life.
Every single day, Soda Weight Loss is helping people let go of the weight and keep it off.
I mean, I was 30 pounds overweight, and I went in, and the doctor said, you need to change your diet.
Get help and get started with Soda Weight Loss.
Got off my blood pressure medicine and my cholesterol medicine, and that is amazing to me.
I went from a 16, 18 down to a size 4 now. So that is amazing. It makes you feel so good.
Splash into summer savings right now with Soda's lowest prices of the year.
No injections, no pills, no hunger.
I would recommend Soda because it's sustainable. This is lifetime change.
I let go of 50 pounds. It felt unreal.
We're the #1 weight loss company in America for client satisfaction and results. And with our incredible summer savings, what are you waiting for?
Get help, get results at SodaWeightLoss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com.
Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
Back to school is on the brain. That means new notebooks, pencils, new everything. And while the kids are getting ready to get book smart, it's time for you to save smart with Straight Talk Wireless. Switch now and get a free Moto G 2025 with 5G when you activate select plans. Now that's a smart call. Get Straight Talk covered by Verizon's 5G network. Available at straighttalk.com and Walmart. Offer valid through 10/19/25. Taxes and fees apply. Purchase of Gold Unlimited plan or higher required for offer. Must activate the plan in-store at Walmart. Cannot be combined with other offers.
Did you know you can get your prescriptions for less at your local pharmacy? You can with GoodRx. It's the free app that can save you money on your medications. Just search for your prescription, choose the pharmacy and the price that works best for you, and then show your GoodRx coupon to your pharmacist at the drop-off counter. GoodRx works at over 70,000 pharmacies, including Walmart, Rite Aid, and Walgreens, and it works whether you have insurance or not. It's easy to save. Next time you drop off your prescription, check GoodRx. To start saving today, go to GoodRx.com. GoodRx is not insurance.
The Social Security Administration just announced they are now projected to run out of money 1 year earlier than expected. Benefits could be cut by as much as 23%, and the average person could lose more than $100,000 in lifetime income. This news could significantly change when you file for Social Security. Discover how you could get every penny out of your benefits with a free Social Security analysis from Boss Retirement Solutions. If you've saved more than $300,000 and have not filed for Social Security, schedule your free analysis now by calling 801-896-9622. This free, customized analysis could help you get every penny out of Social Security. Call 801-896-9622. That number again, 801-896-9622.
Boss Retirement Solutions is not affiliated with the Social Security Administration.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Let's check in again with Heather Kelly.
Well, we have a crash in Kaysville. This is on 200 North westbound, right at the ramp that'll take you to northbound I-15. Now, traffic can still get on that on-ramp, but you're going to feel a little bit squeezed as you do have a right lane of through traffic blocked in that area as well. So just use a bit of caution. Now, once you hop on I-15, if you're heading southbound, you're going to have delays as you leave Kaysville, heading through most of Farmington. That is due to lane restrictions where the right lane is blocked. Almost everyone else across the Wasatch Front is traveling at freeway speeds. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, we're flirting with triple digits with today's high expected to hit 99 degrees under partly cloudy skies. We slowly cool down as the week goes by, hitting the mid-90s as we get ready to go into the weekend. Right now, it's still mostly cloudy, but already 84 degrees. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
We're learning today that the Salt Lake City Planning Commission has approved a plan to turn an old restaurant by the University of Utah into new housing. At KSL News Radio's Adam Detail has more details.
The plan is to turn the old Village Inn by 9th East and 4th South into 20 new family-sized townhomes. Project leaders say these new townhomes will provide something that more and more people have been wanting in walkability, plus it's also right by a track station. Though KSL.com reports they will also include 2-car garages and other amenities as well, but it's not clear yet when construction would begin. The Planning Commission has given their initial thumbs up, but they've asked the developers to submit a final plan for review within the next 18 months. Adam Small, KSL News Radio.
That was Adam Small with the details, not Adam Details with the small talk. So I apologize for that. It's still early in the morning for me, and I'm trying to get my feet underneath me. But this, when I introduced this, Holly, I said an old restaurant. It's a Village Inn. I think we've all been to it. It's on the way up to the university up there on 4th South and 9th East. Maybe it is old by
I think it's
by standards.
no longer in business, right? It's out of business.
But it's a great location. It would seem to be a great location for housing. I think that there used to be, I don't know, I'm probably talking out of line here, but the original Salt Lake City Jail was up the hill
it's
there.
It's right by there.
Yeah, it's very close to
and
that.
They have, I think, at least last time I was by there, they had the Anniversary Inn, like on the upper levels or something.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so actually this caught my eye because it's a really creative use of space. So instead of putting another restaurant there or another business, we're looking at family townhomes. One of the things, though, is it feels like, we're talking about a final plan within 18 months. That's a year and a half out. We have the need now, right? But it's one way of how can we address the issue of not enough affordable housing in the state of Utah.
And we're stuck in the Wasatch Front by size. I mean, there's no more expansion, especially in the Salt Lake Valley. So looking at something like this, and I know it's a ways away, and I appreciate exactly what you said, but we've got to do something in Salt Lake City, and we've got to get more housing in Salt Lake City. Yeah. And apparently this is one that could get ultimately 20 new family-sized townhomes. I don't know how they can do that in such a small space, but 20. I mean, it must be.
It's going up
several stories.
Yeah, I think I saw 4 stories.
So, 20 homes in that particular area in exchange for an old restaurant, which I actually enjoyed, is, it's progress. If it's in 18 months or 18 years, at least we're going forward.
Right. Yeah, right. So there's some other interesting proposals as well, and there's one actually that has already been submitted to the Salt Lake City Planning Commission, and it is to turn, there's an old Office Max store very nearby actually, and that would be to put student housing there, but that would house 252 students.
Oh yeah,
where the old Office Max was.
Actually right on the very same block. We're talking about the 9th East 4th South area. Yeah. 252 unit student housing project will be on site, and that's another thing that the Planning Commission is working on this year. So, and that's it, not necessarily walking distance. Yeah, it is very close to the university.
Well, you can hop on tracks for sure.
Yeah, and there's a track station right there that would do that as well. So, Salt Lake City's moving forward, I should say, and trying to get more housing. Student housing up there is always a problem because the housing costs up there are very expensive. It's premium area now. The Avenues, University area, that part of the city is prime real estate, and it's not the kind of thing you can just put a bunch of kids in a house and give them cheap rent.
Right. It's one of the issues. Again, these are creative solutions, I think, to saying how do we work on the housing issue, and we also have these businesses that are no longer there. So it's one of the, again, creative ideas. There's so many different ways to look at how do we do this, right? Do we change zoning for the ADUs, accessory dwelling units, right? People used to call them mother-in-law apartments. What can we do about these tiny homes? It's one of the things that the Other Side Academy is working on, and that is working on our to help our friends who are experiencing homelessness, right? These little tiny homes, and they can be really cute, and they're independent and standalone units, and they can be great.
Yeah, so these buildings there would be 3 buildings. We're talking about the Village Inn area. 3 buildings ranging from 32 feet to 45.5 feet in height, located at 9th East and 4th South, near the bottom of the S-curve from the University of Utah. And each of these there'll be 4 stories. They'll come with a lot of space for a 2-car garage. Property was also, and you said this a minute ago, it's 300 feet from the UTA track station. So, we talked about student housing or just even people that work at the university or work downtown. You're right there. So it's a great area, great location. and something that could be a good project for Salt Lake City in the months to come.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. I did a search for affordable housing in Utah, right? So there actually was an NPR article really focused on Utah housing, and one of the people that they started with was a couple. They came from Louisiana, and they expected that they'd be able to move out to Utah. He and his fiance, that they'd be able to move to Utah and find a place to rent for under $1,200. They couldn't do it, right? Their rent that they're paying right now is $1,750 a month, and they're hoping to be able to buy a house. But it's like he's the guy in the story is working 3 jobs right now, and the man. Sorry, the woman is working 3 jobs. The man in the story is working in construction, and they can barely save for groceries, let alone a down payment.
Yeah, and I did make a mistake. I need to clear up, Holly, and that is that we were thinking this project would be done in 18 months.
No.
The plans are due in the next 18 months. Like, you should be able to do plans in 18 weeks, although I'm not a planner. But it seems to me that we should move on. So when you said it's going to take a while, I'm like, 18 months isn't that bad. That's just to get the plans in effect.
Back.
No,
Yeah,
you're right. Yeah, we could move a little faster than that. But I mean, progress is progress, and that's a good area. It could be developed. I mean, look at what happened just a few blocks south, the 9th and 9th area. Everything they've done in that area, and a lot of those other blocks along 9th East, 13th East, 5th East, where the city's done some pretty big improvements. Coming down a little bit further north to 4th South makes a lot of sense, and make that area just beautiful and better for student housing and whatnot. I mean, all told, it's something like 696 total beds provided in these various projects near the University of Utah.
Right, the 2 that we mentioned.
Right, yeah, the 2 projects. Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, and that can make a big difference for the University of Utah, right, who is still trying to expand their student base, at least somewhat. You have to have some place for those students to go. And a lot of college students will still live at home, but not all of them want to.
Yeah, and living that close to campus means you have 696 less cars going up.
That's
because
right.
you can jump on
You can
tracks,
jump
which
on
is literally
tracks.
right across the street, and get up there, and it will take you close to the university. You know, I actually take tracks whenever I can. When I'm speaking up at the U, I'll usually jump on one of the track stations up there. You can get work done anyway, so it's very pleasant for me, and it's cheap.
I prefer not to drive in the snow, so tracks can do the driving in the snow, right?
Yeah. I actually learned Front Runner takes me right close to work here.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So I can get a lot done that way too. Anyway, that should be a good project. Hopefully Salt Lake City can speed that up a little bit from the 18 months. But yeah, if the plans are good in 18 months, that's only the end of 2026. And maybe the project comes forward in 2027. And we have up to 700 new beds in Salt Lake City to help university students. There were some dueling articles this morning on the impact of AI, artificial intelligence, on new college grads and how it impacts the way they are applying for jobs. Is it a blessing or a curse? Well, it kind of depends on who you ask. That's coming up next. Remember, you can stream us live at kslnewsradio.com and on the app for KSL News Radio, sponsored by @YourServicePros.
Listen to KSL for the new and traditional content you've always loved. There's the new Inside Sources, expanded from 9 to noon, and new expanded news coverage with Maria Chaleos on midday, noon to 3. And of course, the news and weather from voices you love, mornings and afternoons. Here are new traditions and the familiar ones on KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM and 1160 AM.
It's summer, and we all know what that means. It's officially moving season, a time filled with hours of packing, unpacking, and so much bubble wrap. But the first thing you should do when moving into your new home is make sure that the Wi-Fi is booming with Xfinity. It's super quick and easy to set up. Then, boom! You'll have your new home hooked up with the ultimate Wi-Fi experience faster than the time it takes to parallel park a moving truck. Then you'll be back online with the most reliable Wi-Fi with the best-in-class equipment from Xfinity, so you can just kick back, relax, and stream your favorite movies and TV shows while somebody else deals with those boxes. Because with Xfinity, the only thing you'll have to worry about is remembering where you packed the remote. Make the right and easy move with Xfinity. Learn more at xfinity.com/move. Restrictions apply. Not available in all areas. Most reliable Wi-Fi claim based on Open Signal Awards USA Fixed Broadband Experience Report August 2024. Go to xfinity.com/move.
We just want to have enough money for retirement. and travel to visit our grandchildren.
I understand. That's why at Fisher Investments, we start by getting to know each other so I can learn about your family, lifestyle, goals, and needs, allowing us to tailor your portfolio.
What about commission-based products?
We don't sell those. We're a fiduciary, obligated to act in your best interest.
So, how do your management fees work?
We have a simple management fee based on the value of your portfolio, so we do better when you do better.
We appreciate that kind of transparency.
We also check in with you regularly to keep you up to date on the markets and your portfolio.
What other services do you offer?
As a client, you have access to resources on investing, financial planning, estate planning, Social Security, Medicare, and more.
Wow, it sounds like Fisher Investments has everything we need.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
The power of we believes in you. It advocates for you. It completes your circle. It makes sure you have the strongest circle possible. And with Intermountain Health in yours, you'll always have the care you need to live the healthiest life possible. That's the power of we. Intermountain Health.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textingterms.us. Texting enrolls you for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply STOP to opt out.
There's a lot on the line in divorce. This is Joe Cordell of Cordell & Cordell, the largest family law firm in the country. When you find yourself facing divorce, you need a partner you can count on.
Connect with a local divorce attorney today. Text Office 44 to 32 32 32. Office 44 to 32 32 32. CordellCordell.com.
The wait is over. After 2 years of renovation, the perfect downtown lunch spot is now open. The Garden Restaurant offers a beautifully designed space and deliciously fresh menu. It's close to everything downtown next to the Temple Square block. If you need something quick and on the go, or to meet a client, friend, or place to relax, the Garden Restaurant offers healthy options like handcrafted sandwiches, soups, unique salads, plus traditional favorites like homemade pot pies and the famous Lion House rolls. The Garden's new look and tasty menu offer something for everyone, featuring dine-in, patio seating, lobby seating, and grab-and-go or quick online ordering. Visit the Garden today. Reimagine space with remarkable taste. Easy street access on the ground floor of the Joseph Smith Memorial Building, open weekdays 11 to 3. Check out the menu at thegardenslc.com. Fresh flavors, iconic location. The Garden Restaurant is now open. See you there.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
I'm Andrew Saul, Commissioner of Social Security. Beware of telephone scammers pretending to be government employees. Real Social Security employees will never threaten you. Callers threatening you with arrest or other legal action and demanding money are not from us. If you receive a call like this, hang up, do not provide them with any form of payment or information. Report the call at oig.ssa.gov.
Inside Sources.
Okay, Holly, so I'm looking at two different studies here, two different articles. One is in the Deseret News, and it's titled, How Recent BYU Graduates Are Using AI Tools in Their Job Search. It says, with the rise of AI, job seekers are adapting to stand out, but one key measure remains unchanged. We'll talk about that. But at the same time, I'm reading this Deseret News article, I'm seeing a Wall Street Journal article that says this: AI is wrecking an already fragile job market for college graduates. So do these two articles compete, or do you think that they dovetail?
I think there's a little of both, right? But the competing part is it's interesting that the article in the Deseret News is talking about how college grads are using, for example, ChatGPT to customize a resume, to hit the keywords. We know that AI, when it comes to employers, a lot of employers are running cover letters and resumes through AI, and they're looking for keywords. And if they don't stand out, then they're junked before they even see a human, right? Human eyeballs. But the Wall Street Journal article is saying, look, a lot of these entry-level jobs that college grads used to take, they're already going to AI. And so there aren't as many of these jobs available.
So employers are looking at job applications and looking for keywords that will bump them out? Are those keywords that were
lot
generated
of-
by AI? So
a lot of AI will scan these resumes, right?
Right.
So it's before it ever even hits a human eyeball. It's scanned and either tossed or not, right? Depending on what keywords they're looking for in your resume or your cover letter.
So the article also included how students, graduates use AI tools in their job search,
Right.
maybe to prepare the resumes themselves or to handle questions at interviews and things like that, so that you can have an idea of what to do and how to respond and
Yeah.
how to fill out an application. I think I wouldn't do it solely on AI because it might tell you you had a job doing something that you didn't do just because they're
Right.
filling in
You
some blanks.
you always have to check. But one of the things that you can do, right, is you can tell ChatGPT, for example, act in the role of an interviewer for this specific position, right? And then you can get feedback from artificial intelligence to say, well, you don't have a keyword they're looking for. In fact, you see it on LinkedIn. If you're ever on LinkedIn, it will tell you if a job pops up, it'll say, well, you are not a strong match for this one, or you are a strong match because you've listed certain skills, right? That is AI that's doing that for you. So students can go through and they can customize so that you're finding the quote unquote right words for this industry. But one of the things that really was surprising in this article about BYU students is that some people are actually using it for teleprompter. They're using AI as a teleprompter while they're doing an online interview.
So they can see the AI reads the question, here's the question,
And
and
types
gives
out
you
an
sort of
answer.
an answer to that. Well, I wonder almost if in this day and age, 2025, employers don't almost expect that you have some proficiency with AI, even if it means that you're cheating a little bit on your application or on your responses to questions. I mean, if it gives you that benefit, it gives you that edge, and it is the cutting edge technology for today's learning environment, maybe having that under your
I personally think it depends on the industry that you're being hired in, right? So, for example, there are still multiple industries where you need to have a good human touch. And a lot of industries, you want to find that there's good corporate fit. You're not going to find the answers to fit based on AI answers, right? You're not going to find out how a person's bedside manner is as a nurse or a caregiver if you're using AI, right? You've got to have some kind of human interaction. And that's one of the downsides, I think, of saying, look, are we going to use AI for interviews? If there are certain things where you have to hit it exactly, maybe AI can be helpful, but you're not going to get a sense of who the real person is if they're reading a script, for example.
Do you think AI is so sophisticated right now that you can do exactly what you described a minute ago, which is the teleprompter thing? In other words, I'm in an interview, I'm talking to someone, and they ask me a question. Is AI, and this might be an unfair question to you, but I don't know much about AI. I know that it's not a steak sauce like our...
right, it's not A1.
Yeah,
Thank you, Linda McMahon.
Yeah. So, my wife uses it a lot, and she helps me with things that I do because she uses it. But is it quick enough? I mean, it can actually interpret the question and give you an answer, so you can read, it, and it understands that this is a question that I'm going to answer. So pop me up an answer.
Yes, it is that fast. But I would also say this: and I haven't used AI to do some kind of a job interview, but if I were going to, what I would do is I would practice with ChatGPT. I would practice with AI and say to them, to the AI prompt, act as if you were the recruiter for this specific job. What questions would you ask me? One of the ones that I find really annoying as a question that seems to be common, not in every field, but most, tell us about your greatest weakness. Well, if you've already prepped that one, you can either have it written out, but you can have ChatGPT prompt you because you've already talked about that, right? So when that question comes up, describe your greatest weakness.
You're not fumbling around and coming up to an answer where...
That's a dumb question, by the way.
Yeah, 15 minutes later, you're going, oh, I should have answered that
Yeah.
differently.
There's a lot of prep that goes into this. So one of the things that's super interesting about academic hiring, I have a PhD, and I have friends who graduated when I did, and some of them have teaching jobs, some do not. But I looked at how long it takes sometimes to get an academic job, and there are people who apply over 100 times, 100 different universities or 100 different openings. And so each time they do that, that's super depressing, by the way, but each time they do that, they have to customize their resume and their cover letter to say, this is why I want to teach at your university in this program, right? And so that's something that AI can be helpful with.
that this is a university that does a lot of research. This is a
Right.
university
So
that
focus
has
on that.
a,
This is a teaching focus. So focus on the teaching.
Interesting. Yeah, without you having to go research every single university, every single company.
Right. But you
Genius.
always have to double check, right? Because what happens with AI is you get hallucination, right? Which is it starts to make up fake stuff.
Right.
Sounds
Yes.
good. Here's this study. It was done by so and so and so and so, except it's all made up. It's not real.
So let's talk a little bit about this Wall Street Journal article, because what it's saying is that AI, and you're going to have to help me with this as well, Holly, as you do with so many things, that AI is taking away some of the entry-level jobs for college graduates.
Yeah.
That seems almost hard to imagine.
Well, again, it's, entry level. They're paid less. They do the grunt work, right? And the hope is that you're going to be able to step up into, into additional, higher paying, more responsible jobs. But those entry level jobs, a lot of them can be done, like information. You've got insurance. You've got customer service. A lot of customer service has now gone to AI. You know, get a little chat on your online ordering thing. Hey, chat with us. That's usually a bot. It's not a real person. Right? Even sometimes you can get human-sounding voices when you make a phone call, and eventually you can escalate to a real human, but that's not where it starts.
Yeah, and maybe our colleges and universities need to start working on that and making sure that they can teach people tools and things that AI is probably not going to be doing anytime soon. And so that you're not taking those jobs away. And on the other hand, if it does take some of those entry-level jobs away, maybe that's a good thing so that we can get people more advanced in the workplace sooner.
It's people-centric jobs, right? But you have to remember, every time there's some kind of big jump in technology, the job market shifts. So when you and I were going to college the first time, there was no social media. There were computers, great big mainframes, right? That could barely process anything now compared to what we have on our phone. So the job market changes, but remember, typing used to be a specific profession. You could go to school and train to be a typist. Now everybody's expected to have typing skills.
Right. Or and you may not even have to be very good at typing to do that. Let me ask you this, and do you think that AI? This is a dumb question. You're going to say, of course it can. Can AI, do you think, write a resume? Like I can say, I need to apply for a job at KSL. I want to work I want to be at Inside Sources with Holly. And it could write me a resume to do that?
Yeah, absolutely it can. And you have to give it some information, right? So AI can only work with what it has. So if you tell it, go see my profile online, see what I've already done, and see if it creates something. Or you can say, look, here's a basic list of what I've done. Create a resume that really focuses on my radio skills, right? And it'll do that for you. Yeah, absolutely.
I had to write an expert report for a case I was working on, and my wife said, let me just do it through AI. And I didn't dare, because I thought, I don't know. But looking back, she would feed in all the information, the depositions and everything, and say, hey, give us a report.
Yeah.
I was too scared. So I didn't do it. And when we come back, Wyoming is building an AI data center that will use a huge amount of power. I mean, huge. Plus, we're going to have Holly's Fun Facts of the Day a little bit early today when we come back.
11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Claire Scott. KSL's top story this hour. UTA says they're planning on launching more on-demand rideshare services in Utah County. KSL News Radio's Randall Jepson has more.
UTA says the number of people using their on-demand service that started a few months ago on the western side of Provo Northern, it's been outpacing expectations. And they plan to launch a similar service in Saratoga Springs and Eagle Mountain next spring. A UTA spokesman told me the service, it will be a gauge to track demand. And if it's popular, it could eventually lead to more regular bus routes through those communities.
UTA is also working on a proposed TRAX line from the point of the mountain to Lehigh, but the exact route is still being worked out. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. On the Senate floor today, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer mourned the loss of 4 New Yorkers killed in yesterday's shooting in Midtown Manhattan. Among those killed, an NYPD officer.
He was the best of who we are, a proud Bangladeshi American, a proud cop from the 47th Precinct, a proud New Yorker. He died doing what NYPD officers do every day, running towards danger, protecting others, putting his own life on the line, and that's what he did. And he paid. he paid the ultimate price.
The 36-year-old officer was off duty working security for the building. Your money at this moment, the Dow is down 125 points. The S&P is down 6 points. And coming up, warm and breezy. KSL Weather's next KSL News Time, 11:31.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
I'm back to doing what I love and more. Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Are you struggling with pain in your feet, ankles, knees, hips, or lower back? At the Good Feet store, we recommend having high-quality support in all of your shoes. Our personalized arch support system has helped countless people find relief, like Karen. Here is her Good Feet story.
After I decided my pain was too much, and my doctor actually suggested that I do visit the Good Feet store. Pretty amazing when they put the arch supports in your shoe and you walk around and you realize there's not pain and you think, how can this arch support in my shoe make my back pain go away? But it works. And how can it make my knee pain go away? It was incredible.
Come to the Good Feet store today and see what we can do for you. Good Feet arch supports are in stock and available in over 300 different styles and sizes.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Stop in today at the Good Feet store.
Pro Savings Days are back at Lowe's. Right now, get a 4-piece GE kitchen suite for under $2,000. Plus, get a free DeWalt 20-volt Max XR 8-amp-hour battery when you buy a select DeWalt tool. Save big with deals that work as hard as you do. Shop Pro Savings Days in-store or online today. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 8/1. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. Discount taken at time of purchase. See sales associate for details.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. We're dedicated to serving people 50 and up, like me. Our needs are different. Big Wireless wants us in an unlimited plan, but if you're not using all that data, you're probably getting used. At Consumer Cellular, we're focused on affordable, reliable plans, including data that suits your needs, not ours. Our plans start at just $20, and you'll get the best customer service in the business.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com/facts. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional facts.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Voro Johansson.
Well, we've got typical slowdown southbound I-15 in Kaysville, right around the Ponds Park area as you're approaching Farmington. Other than that, the Wasatch Front is looking good. We do have a crash in Summit County, though, on SR 224, right around the Olympic Parkway, New Park Boulevard intersection. It's blocking the right 2 lanes and shoulder and backing traffic all the way up to I-80. Voro Johansson in the KSL Traffic Center.
A high of 99 with mostly sunny skies and a bit of breeze today. The breeze sticks around for the next few days before the highs fall back down to the mid-90s. Right now it is 88 and mostly cloudy. I'm Claire Scott from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Cheyenne, Wyoming is about to build an artificial intelligence data center that would use more electricity than every home in Wyoming combined.
That's wild.
And it's going to expand to as much as 5 times that size, according to the city's mayor. I mean, they like the area because it's got cool weather, good for keeping computer temperatures down, abundance of inexpensive electricity. It's one of the nation's top producing energy states, and its capital has become a bit of a computing hub. So,
well, it's going to give Utah a run for its money. Let's just say that.
Yeah, and I guess we need these AI data centers, but taking more electricity than all the homes in Wyoming combined.
Isn't that crazy? I mean, I know they don't have a huge population there, but still.
Yeah, I always think of everything's in the cloud, but you have to have something, I guess, and you've got to be able to buy the electricity for it. So this is something, and we've talked about this before, Holly. I've got to imagine that we're going to be considering nuclear. I mean, because we've talked about these smaller nuclear plants. You can actually build one on site. Of course, this is not going to be a small one if it's the same.
And they're not talking nuclear up in Wyoming.
Oh, they're not?
They're not. They're talking about coal and gas.
that's a big old coal plant they're going to put in
So
Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Isn't it, well, I don't know that they're putting it there, but it's so interesting. So look, the data center would start at 1.8 gigawatts of electricity and scale to 10. That doesn't mean anything to me until I read this. A gigawatt can power as many as 1 million homes. So how many people does Wyoming have? Do you have a guess?
Well, it doesn't have 10 million. If you're talking
No.
about 10 gigawatts.
They have 590,000 people.
Well, they don't even have a million.
They don't even have a million.
So it begins at 1.8 gigawatts. That is more than every home in
it's
Wyoming you would
so
expect.
1.8 million homes, right? I mean, and going up to 10 gigawatts. Sorry, 10 million homes. That's crazy. Those are crazy big numbers. So the AP article, this is the one that caught my eye, right? Is that Wyoming is going to have an AI data center that uses more energy than all of the homes in the state. But it's a major exporter of energy. It's a top producer of coal, oil, and gas. It ranks only behind Texas, New Mexico, and Pennsylvania as a top net energy producing state. Sorry, Utah. And it says the data center is going to have its own dedicated energy from gas generation and then also renewable sources, but they don't mention nuclear.
Yeah, and apparently Wyoming has been the home of Microsoft's data centers at least since 2012. So I don't know what a data center is, like a big building that houses information, but it's also got people and employees,
servers and
things like that. This has got to be a mammoth enterprise.
Huge.
If it's something that's big, 1.8 gigawatts, which is more than every other all combined homes in the state of Wyoming put together. I mean, that's mammoth.
So OpenAI, we were just talking about AI, right? We were talking about whether your data is publicly available or whatever. But OpenAI is the developer of ChatGPT. They say, to their knowledge, this would be the biggest data center in the world, even bigger than any of the ones in China. And they do a lot.
So I always just think of data as being something you can store on a little disk or a little,
it's a lot of data.
I guess you've got a lot of data and you've got to have some big place to house it. It just seems like with technology going forward that we're getting more and more data on smaller and smaller spaces, but maybe we've reached about as far as we're going to get with that.
I don't know. So my husband is a computer programmer, and he taught me something called Moore's Law, and that every 18 months technology will double and the price will cut in half. So if you think about, for example, when the very first portable home calculators came out, right? You could sit it on your desk. It was actually kind of chunky. It was maybe, 6 inches long, and it cost $120, and this would be like in the 1970s, right? You can go to the dollar store and buy a calculator for $1, right? And it could be solar powered. It's better, got more capability, right? And if you remember when you and I were in school, our math teachers told us, you have to learn these things because you're never going to be able to carry a calculator around with you, right? Now we all have them in our pockets. Right. So if you have this trend, technology is going to continue to double. The price will continue to have. So there are things in, a decade from now that we don't even know is coming at this point.
Okay, so I'm not old enough that I learned math on an abacus, but I did when I was in. I actually got an abacus just for fun. But when I was in high school, we did everything on a slide ruler.
Yeah.
We didn't have computers.
Okay, that's older than me.
I was, and I got really good at a slide ruler, but it was just that. You still had to, and it wasn't very precise because you just have these little gauges or little lines on it. But it went back and forth, and it was great. Now you think, who would even do that?
Right.
I mean, a third grader could get more math capabilities than I could when I was a senior in high school.
Yeah. So that was super interesting. I thought, right, that we're looking at data centers that can power more homes. In fact, if you go to 10 million homes and say there's 590,000 people, so maybe you have 250,000 homes, and that's many times larger than the population of Wyoming. Anyway,
I was trying to see how big the structure is. It doesn't say that. It just
doesn't.
Says how much capability it has to have. But
it's going to be big.
It's going to be mammoth. Yes.
So fun facts of the day, and we're doing it a little early because in the next segment, I'm going to talk with Sarah Weaver, who's the editor of the Deseret News, about the passing today of Bonnie Parkin, who's a former Relief Society president for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So the early fun fact of the day. International Tiger Day today, by the way. So do you have a favorite, wild animal?
Well, I love tigers. When I was a kid, we always would play games. I actually chose to be the tiger. We would play zoo game. I know it was silly, but I was just a little kid, and I would always want to be the tiger.
So I have a daughter who has loved leopards since she was just little, like, I don't know, maybe first or second grade. So all of grade school, anytime she had an opportunity to do a report, she would do it on leopards. Well, she's going to go to Africa, and she's hoping, crossing her fingers, she can see a leopard on a safari while she's out there, actually.
You ever notice all those National Geographic and type shows that do these things on lions? It's rare you get one on tigers, but it's because I think they live in a forest environment that's almost hard to...
I have a tiger story for you. It's a weird one.
Okay.
So we adopted internationally all over, and one of my first adoptions was actually in Kazakhstan in 1993, and it was barely like a brand new country. The Soviet bloc had just broken up, and when I was over there adopting, there was an English newspaper that reported a tiger attack on a villager that was relatively close by to where I was over there adopting. Like, there were tigers that were still coming out of the woods eating villagers. So I was like, oh my gosh. I actually saved that paper. It's now yellow in a box in my basement, but I have it.
Yeah. Interesting.
Okay. Interesting fun facts of the day. So besides that, so on this day in 1833, William Wilberforce died at age 73. Do you know who he was?
Wilberforce?
Yeah. He is one of my heroes. So he was an English abolitionist, and if you are familiar with the song and story Amazing Grace, he was one of the people in England who just fought for years to get England to move away from the slave trade. So he's buried in Westminster Abbey, and when I went there one year, I was able to go and pay my respects at his grave.
And today marks the...
well, this is the day he died in 1833, so almost 200 years ago.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Never heard of him, but good for him.
You probably heard of this guy. So in 1921, on this day, Adolf Hitler became the leader of the National Socialist German Workers' Party in Germany. What one was that?
What year?
That'd be Nazi. 1921. Just over 100 years. Just over 100 years ago.
Because we just had the 100-year anniversary of the publishing of Mein Kampf.
Yeah.
At the same
That's
time.
right.
Interesting, yeah.
So, and then in 1954, the Fellowship of the Ring was first published. So I love those stories.
Is that Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's part of the trilogy. So that's the very
54?
first book. Yeah.
I thought it was a new phenomenon.
No.
That outdates me.
Oh, my goodness.
I should have followed
it's
that
J.R.R.
closer.
Tolkien. So, yeah, I mean, that book was the first of the trilogy, and then of course we have The Hobbit and the other books. Then now we have movies and things, but
it took off after that.
Yeah.
Long after that. Now then it became a phenomenon.
I think it was a phenomenon. But look, it took the movies for me to say, okay, I can actually dig into the books because I found them a little hard to follow when I first tried to read them.
Right.
But I read them and I loved them. You probably didn't care about this, but in 1981, Prince Charles married Lady Diana. And it was a huge phenomenon. I stayed up in the middle got up in the middle of the night to watch it, and all this pomp and ceremony. Of course, the marriage didn't last, but I stayed up and watched it on this day.
It was fun. I remember it, although I didn't stay up and watch it. I just know that they played it over and over. It was a beautiful. I mean, it was huge. She was a princess in every way.
Yeah, yep, she was. So when we come back, as I mentioned, I'll be visiting with Sarah Weaver, the editor of the Deseret News and former editor of the Church News, about today's passing of Bonnie Perkin.
Selling or buying a home, you're losing a lot of money if you're not using the BankBuster loan. This is Rod with the SaveRight Realtor team at RealtyPath. Nothing compares to the BankBuster loan. Home sellers, you get a quicker sale and a higher net price. How? The buyer of your home gets a rate as low as 4.75% with a payment that saves them hundreds every month. The ultra-low BankBuster rate is not a seller concession that comes out of your pocket. It's all thanks to our affiliate lender, SaveRight Mortgage, and their BankBuster loan. Hire the SaveRight Realtors when you sell or buy a home, and you automatically get a preferred lender and a BankBuster loan. Buyers, you can start with a rate in the ones. Don't lose tens of thousands of your hard-earned money. Sell and buy your home with a BankBuster loan. Call 801-APPROVE or visit SaveRight.com.
KSL offers the best daily newsletter in the state. It's the 3 things you need to know. Every weekday, we deliver quality and relevant content to your inbox. No ads, no spam, Just the 3 things you need to know to be informed about the world around you. Subscribe today. Visit KSLNewsRadio.com or text the word INBOX to 57500. That's INBOX to 57500.
If you didn't think skipping breakfast was a big deal, you'd be right. Before. But now, Wendy's has Buck Biscuits. We're talking sausage, egg, and cheese biscuit, bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit, or even the Honey Buddy chicken biscuit for just $1 each. Seriously, you can get all 3 if you want. They're just $1, so you'll never skip breakfast again. If you're smart. Breakfast for $1? Gotta be Wendy's.
Limited time only. Price and participation may vary. Limit 5 qualifying items per transaction. Not valid in a combo while supplies last.
Why'd I go to the doctor? One day at the firehouse, I was so lightheaded I could barely stand. Even my crew noticed. Getting checked out was the right call. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor.
I'm so glad I did.
Visit NoTimeToWait.com, sponsored by Bristol Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. Pico Mexican Grill puts a fun twist on traditional Mexican flavors. Nestled in downtown Salt Lake, it's not your usual Mexican spot. Pico is all about redefining the flavors you love with something fresh and exciting. Owner and founder Cassandra Galindo joins us with more.
At Pico Mexican Grill, we believe great food brings people together. Our menu blends traditional flavors with a twist, like birria tacos and beer battered chile relleno made with Quiroz beer. Even our name is a playful nod to tradition, with a K honoring my first initial. One of our most popular dishes is Victor's Famous Tamales, a tribute to my roots and the recipes that started it all. My mom's tamales, served at Victor's restaurant attached to my dad's tire shop, are iconic, and we're proud to share them at Pico. We support local businesses like Salted Roots and Quiroz Brewing, adding even more local flavor to our menu. As a women-led business, I'm proud to create a space that celebrates culture, uplifts the community, and brings people together, one plate at a time. Pico is a love letter to flavor, family, creativity, and meaningful connections.
Go check out Pico Mexican Grill for a delicious meal with family and friends. Enjoy their new brunch offerings or stop by during the week at 511 South, 500 East in downtown Salt Lake City. It's a great spot to unwind and enjoy good food. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
Hi, it's Tori DeVito. In every family, small conversations can make a big impact. I grew up on tour with my parents. Kind of different, but we bonded over music just like other families do over sports, camping, or other interests. And we talked. Little everyday conversations from silly to serious that built a foundation over time. Honest conversations, like when my dad shared his experiences as an alcoholic.
Your honesty about that part of your life gave me a sense of integrity that I wanted to uphold in my own life. And I was so grateful that you and Mom had become these sober, stable people who were always there for me.
I wanted you to know from someone who's been in recovery more than 30 years now that hard work is what creates success, not alcohol or other drugs, whether it's music or anything else. I said it a lot, and I'm glad you took it to heart.
Talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
The new Inside Sources.
So I'm here with my guest, Sarah Weaver. Greg actually had to bounce. So we have an opportunity to talk with Sarah, who is the editor of the Deseret News and former editor of the Church News for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, about the life of President Bonnie D. Perkin. She was the 14th Relief Society General President, and she died yesterday at age 84. So I wonder, Sarah, if you can even just share any of your memories or background or anything about President Perkin.
Well, President Perkin was like so many amazing Latter-day Saint leaders who are also women in the church. She was a force. She was organized. There was a group of us this morning who were talking about her who said, you know, we're so happy that she'll get to see her husband again. And I'm sure that was a beautiful reunion yesterday. But then I am sure she went right to work and started organizing everything. And making sure that a lot's going to get accomplished, because she accomplished a lot during her time as General Relief Society president.
Can you share some of that? Like, what were the years that she served, and what are some of the things that stand out to you about what she accomplished?
Well, she and her husband, before she was ever Relief Society General President, she served as a mission leader with her husband in London, England. And that was so amazing. She comes in, she has this love for young people, and then she served as a counselor in the Young Women General Presidency, and ultimately becomes the Relief Society General President from 2002 to 2007. And when she started her service, she said that she prayed to know what Latter-day Saint women across the globe would need to know. And really what she determined and what she found that they needed to know was that God loves them. And I think that is a beautiful sentiment.
Yeah, I agree with that. I looked at just some of her quotes, right? And one of the things that stands out is how often she focused on being grateful and gratitude.
Mm-hmm. And she said we should all be grateful. She said we need to know that God actually sees so much good in us, and that He's encouraging us to press forward. And so, she becomes General Relief Society president in 2002. We have just gone through 9/11 as a country, and it was a time of unity and pressing forward, and her ministry was global. And so there are some really beautiful pictures of her that are posted on the Church News, thechurchnews.com, and on Deseret News, that show this global ministry of her interacting with Latter-day Saints across the globe. And then the other thing she did that I thought was really, really sweet is that she focused a lot on how Latter-day Saint women treated each other. I remember interviewing her in like 2003, and she pointed out that she had a picture in her office of the Savior's depiction of Mary and Martha. So we go to this biblical account of the Savior and Mary and Martha. And if you'll recall that story, there is actually some judgment from Martha, who is doing a lot of the work that needs to be done.
Right.
She's trying to feed the masses. She's trying to get everything done, and Mary is at the Savior's feet. And Sister Parkin said she looks to this because she wants to choose the better part. And part of choosing the better part is really not judging each other. I have a quote from her. She said, "Do we judge one another? Do we criticize each other for individual choices, thinking we know better? We rarely understand another's unique circumstances or individual inspiration." And I actually think, what a beautiful legacy, where she's saying, look to someone else and say, hey, what path have they taken that led them to this place? And are you being fair in your assessment of them?
Yeah, that's such a good question. One of the things that I see about her that is really close to my heart is she served as a page in the Utah Senate. So she was up there being involved in her community before she was serving, I think, worldwide.
Yeah, like I said, she was a force.
Yeah.
She was also involved in PTA and so many other efforts because she was a natural leader who knew how to get things done. She raised 4 sons. Now, I bet that was a pretty, ruckus household. And her husband was a doctor, and so he may have been gone a lot too. And I think she whipped things into shape.
Yeah, interesting. Can you remind us, who did she serve with as her counselors?
I'm trying to think of who that is, and I will look that up for you right now. It's interesting though, because she is the 3rd major general leader of Latter-day Saint women that has passed away this year.
Wow.
In addition to losing her, the church also lost Sister Mary Ellen Smoot, who was the 13th General Relief Society president. and Sister Elaine L. Jack, who is the 12th Relief Society president.
So 12, 13, and 14.
So
then.
she comes in this legacy where you have these strong women who served in succession, and so, this was a really powerful time for all these women. She leaves behind her 4 sons and 18 grandchildren.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Off the Deseret News article, thank you so much, Deseret News, I see that she served with Sister Kathleen Hughes and Sister Ann Pingree in her presidency. So those are, I was raising my family at this time, and of course the 9/11 was so impactful, and, and hearing this, and I think that my memory, and I didn't have the interaction with her like you did, but this idea of being unified, right? And it's something now that's so important to me that we talk about others' experiences, and that our own experiences are not the only ones that are out there. And so many people have different ways of raising their family, of, looking at politics. And in this particular situation, they have different ways of coming to Jesus. And I love that she was able to pull that together 20 plus years ago.
Yeah. And when I think of her, I always think of the way she made me feel when I was with her, when I was in her office, when I was interviewing her. And she often said to the women of the church, we shouldn't focus on any feelings of inadequacy that we have, that we should focus on what we are instead of on what we aren't. And I think she knew that if women did that, they could find all the good that was inside of them and build on that.
Do we know yet when her funeral might be?
Her funeral will be this Saturday.
Okay.
And with a viewing on Friday, and that information is posted in the articles on the Deseret News and in the Church News.
Okay, that's good to know. Is there anything that stood out to you? Did you ever have a chance to travel with her? What's one of your favorite memories?
I actually think my favorite memories are just those one-on-one interactions right in her office, where she could say to me, "How are you today? What are you doing? How can I build and strengthen you?" I think she saw the good in people, and she didn't just see them for where they were. I was at the pretty beginning of my career when I was interacting with her. And instead of seeing me for who I was at that time, she saw me for who I could become. And that has always meant the world to me.
Yeah, that's remarkable. So we've been talking about Sister Bonnie Parkin, the 14th Relief Society General President for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. She passed away yesterday at the age of 84. So we'll have an opportunity. Will her funeral be streamed? Do you know?
I don't know that.
Okay, so we will keep on top of that, and we'll be able to share with our listeners if that does happen. Thank you for joining me, Sarah. So Sarah has worked with her personally and has an opportunity to share with us, and I really appreciate that. As we leave for today, that's it.
FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.